As the monster crumbles, the pocket plane system informs them they've defeated the pocket plane boss monster. Some of the viewers ask to confirm if that was really a boss fight, and the other teammates just watch in shock. Yujong calls him an insane bastard and feels like he's already so much farther in skill than she is. Shortly after, the system informs them they've obtained the golem's core, but Jaehyun doesn't believe the test is over since he still has to ensure that Jaein falls today. The system asks them if they'll return to reality, and Jaehyun rejects the option. He tells the viewers that the boss fight was too short, and he has something to show them all, which is to fight the hidden boss. The viewers become curious about what's going to happen next, and Jaehyun leads the team to a place where he says he feels a strong mana presence. When he turns back, he realizes none of his teammates want to follow him in, so he assures them they won't die, no matter how much it hurts. When they enter, the system notifies them that they've found a hidden door, and a special quest is being created where they have to defeat the hidden boss of the hidden floor and return to reality. Ordinary students can't even detect the presence of the hidden door, and they can't even make it to this point even if they stumbled upon it by luck, which is why Jae-in planted the hidden piece here. He turns to the viewers, who can't believe that this guy has found a secret floor when the others are still struggling on the second floor. Jaehyun already knows the method to summon the hidden boss, but he decides to at least pretend to look around a bit. Suddenly, Yujin points to an altar that looks familiar, and after a while, Yujin realizes it's quite similar to the pattern on the golem's core. Our boy puts the golem core into the hole in the altar, which causes bright light to fill the entire place. Jaehyun asks them to get back, and the pocket plane's hidden boss, the Red Drake, begins to appear over the altar. Their mission is to all survive, defeat the enemy, and obtain the heart of the Drake to obtain special privileges as rewards. As the Red Drake forms, the viewers can't believe their eyes because even veterans struggle to handle a Drake. The viewers begin to react negatively because of how difficult the pocket plane was set up, which is the reaction Jaehyun was hoping to get. However, his absolute calculation doesn't work on Drake's physical attacks, but he knows he can still take it on by himself. In the control room, Chairman Jae-in watches in total shock, because his plans to ensure this year's midterms go by quietly so he can deflect the media's attention seem to have been destroyed. He realizes that Jaehyun has interfered with the entire pocket plane this time, but Instructor Hajun protests that there's no way a student can do that. When Jae-in insists that it's Jaehyun, Hajun tries to kick his behind so that he can get promoted in no time. Eventually, the chairman admits that he's glad that it's Jaehyun that's behind this, because there won't be any problems if his goal is to get an item, as they can minimize the hate to the Mills Academy if he successfully clears the dungeon. Ja-in is concerned that Jaehyun enraged the Drake, and he assumes it's because he doesn't know any better. He hopes that Jaehyun kills the Red Drake, but when he turns to the screen, he soon finds out that Yujong has been hurt and is bleeding from the mouth. The students begin to panic because the pocket plane's protective system is broken and they need to get out, which makes Jae-in panic. The viewers become worried because the students shouldn't be able to get hurt in the pocket plane, but it's suddenly happening. When the students' HP bars disappear because the pocket plane has become unstable, some of the viewers become worried that the students can actually die. This development further enrages the chairman, and he calls Jaehyun a son of a B-word. Meanwhile, our boy wonders how the chairman must feel to be manipulated and have things fabricated just like he used to do. Some of the viewers begin to complain about how Ja-in is running the academy facilities, and they suspect that Ja-in is doing all of this on purpose to harm the students. They begin to protest about how many times these things have happened, and how their school keeps pushing kids to the brink of death. He was taken aback by how good her acting was, and when she suggests that she should have just gone into acting and that her looks are wasting away in this school, Jaehyun pleads with her not to make him laugh since he has to keep up a sad expression. He eventually leaves her alone so he can go handle the Drake. As he faces the monster, he knows he can easily defeat it, but it wouldn't be fun. The monster attacks him with one of its claws, but he quickly jumps back to dodge it. He activates a skill called Mono Weapon and pulls out his purified Balmung sword. The viewers believe that Jaehyun may be able to win with this sword, and they begin to root for him. Our boy activates the special skill of the Balmung replica, called Dragon Slayer, which makes all attacks on draconic species 300% stronger. He sends a double sword slash towards the Red Drake, further enraging it so much that it slams its tail on the spot Sungwoo is standing. Sungwoo manages to block the attack, and our boy remembers there are two things to do. He recalls the day Hoyan had seen in his books that a drake's weakness is a mole on its heel, so our boy leaps behind the monster and deals his next attack on its heel. To finish the fight, he activates his skill called Overdrive, which makes all of his skills 1.5 times more powerful. Moments after, he activates his Frozen Earth skill and freezes the entire place, including the Red Drake. The viewers watch in shock and can't identify any A-rank skill that can do what he just did. As they start to speculate if Jaehyun is S-rank, our boy cracks the Frozen Drake and defeats it. After defeating it, Jaehyun leans over his sword and tries to conceal his grin as he hopes that Jaehyun will like his gift. In the chairman's office, he begins to receive several calls from the members of the school board, blaming him for everything. Even though he tries to clarify that he didn't cause this, it dawns on him that no one is believing him, which has never happened to him before. He asks instructor Hajun about the reporters and journalists, and Hajun informs him that he's contacted all the reporters they have connections with. But they rejected his offer because they can't trust Milas anymore. When Hajun mentions that he thinks someone has done this on purpose, Ja-in angrily strikes him with a magic attack that launches him across the room. Ja-in is certain that there's no way Jaehyun could have done this alone, and someone must be helping him. While he's thinking about who it might be, one of his workers bursts in to inform him that the Lotus Guild has sent an official document regarding the disciplinary actions to be taken on Mills Academy and the imprisonment of the chairman. Apparently, Xiangyan had drafted the document about the incident that occurred during the midterms, referring to it as a serious matter that put students into possibly life-threatening danger, just like what happened during the guild experience. Xiangyan states that he consistently puts the students on the brink of death and has been known to engage in bribery of the higher-up politicians for his own interest. Among other things, for breaking 17 other laws related to raiders, Guildmaster Xiangyan orders his immediate arrest. Annoyed, Jae-in protests that the Lotus Guild has no right to directly get involved in this matter, because only the National Raider Association's management headquarters can. When he reads the document further, he learns that 4 main guilds, 29 other guilds, and the National Raider Association management agree with this. Jae-in reads the document speechlessly when several raiders break into his office to arrest him. Meanwhile, when the students leave the pocket plane, several reporters gather outside to interview Team D about the incident that occurred inside. Jaehyun is glad that his teacher took care of things carefully, and one of the reporters asks him if there was something he knew before about this arrest, because of the remark he made about the chairman while in the pocket plane. Jaehyun explains that he can't say much because of the non-disclosure agreement of the academy, but he informs them that this is the 3rd time they've been put in danger, and he doesn't want others to get hurt. As they continue to probe further, he refuses to talk on the grounds that he needs to get Yoo-jung some medical attention. Jaehyun leads Yoo-jung to a paramedic bus that Lotus had prepared so that people don't know Yoo-jung wasn't really hurt. Meanwhile, Jae-in is let out of the academy by the police of the National Raiders management, and several folks soil him with raw eggs. As they throw eggs on him, the crowd chants that the chairman stepped down. Shortly after, when they're all inside the ambulance, Yoo-jung bursts into laughter and accuses Jaehyun of being a terrible actor. When he asks her if it was that bad, she begins to mimic him. It all amuses teacher Xiangyan, so she asks him what he was thinking when he planned all this because he would have been the one going under if things went wrong. However, our boy tells her that he learned from the guild experience that his safety may be important, but saving other people's lives comes first. Yoo-jung teases Jaehyun that this is something unlike him to say and asks if he ate something bad, but he tells her to shut up. After laughing a bit, Xiangyan informs Jaehyun that there will be a press conference in 3 days where they will put an end to Ja-in. Meanwhile, at the National Raider Association management headquarters, Sun Bai-nim celebrates that Jae-in's end is finally here. He recalls a call he had mysteriously received for him to prepare beforehand so they could arrest Ja-in. The person said they would take care of the rest of the process from their end, and they offered to prepare a spot he asked for. 3 days later, at the Lotus Guild's official press conference, Xiangyan notices Jaehyun standing outside, and when she asks if he's nervous, he tells her he doesn't like crowded places. When it's time, Xiangyan, Sun Bai-nim, and Jaehyun step on the podium to answer the questions the reporters have. After the 3 take their seats, several reporters think about how this is a big chance to write an article about the priority negotiation the Lotus Guild has with Min Jae-hyun, which can make global news. Shortly after, Xiangyan allows them to ask questions, so the first reporter asks if it's true that Jae-in killed the students on purpose and covered them up as accidents. Xiangyan confirms that this is true, and they've already obtained all evidence of his evil actions. Our boy smiles because he knows they had to use brainwashing on instructor Yisu to get incriminating files ahead of time, which means Jae-in can't get out of this. Xiangyan adds that Jae-in has broken many other laws, including shady funds that go into Mills Academy. Soon after, another reporter asks if they know the people who are involved with Jae-in's corruption, but Xiangyan only says they're investigating that right now. After some back and forth, one of the reporters asks Xiangyan if it's true that Jaehyun is her mentee, and she confirms it. Jaehyun adds that he was able to get where he is today because of her teachings. Shortly after, another reporter asks Jaehyun if he was hiding his skills from the start because they haven't seen any articles about him, so he explains that he didn't want any media attention. Another reporter asks when he entered a contract with the Lotus Guild, and several other questions about his training, his family relations, and his dating life pour in. Jaehyun remains silent as the questions keep coming because he can't let himself get swept up here since he will continue to get media attention from now on. As if on cue, Seongun asks the reporters to refrain from asking Jaehyun too many questions because he's still recovering from the shock of the incident. A few days later, the students gather for the inauguration of a temporary academy chairman. Yujung mentions that she's glad everyone is okay because she would have been mad if they got hurt. Suddenly Jaehyun tells them to remember that it's not all over yet, just in case. And they all recognize that Jaehyun won't fall that easily, and that they have to get super strong while they have the time. Hoyeon agrees that he's going to get stronger too because he really felt weak during the guild experience, and Ina expresses the same. Jaehyun is glad that the others want to get stronger, but he doesn't plan on getting them further involved in this matter, because dealing with the Aesir god is something for him to do. Shortly after, instructor Kim Ji-yeon steps on the new podium, and Jaehyun tells the others that she's the new director, much to their shock. Yujung can't believe it since she's so young, so Jaehyun informs them that instructor Ji-yeon is also a spy from the Raider Association. A while ago, Jaehyun and Seongun had gone to the Raider Association's management headquarters, and Sun Nim informed them that he's going to make Ji-yeon the new director. In the present, Kim Ji-yeon announces that she'll be the director for the time being and promises to do her best. Later, the group goes to hang out, and Jaehyun wonders what the heck is going on as he watches Yujung do some karaoke. Our boy had thought he would finally get to rest, but it doesn't seem so. A few hours earlier, Yujung had banged on his door and ordered him to open up. When he does, she reminds him of the promise they made to go to karaoke once they were done with exams. Apparently, they had made an appointment at the best karaoke place around there, and they dragged Jaehyun with them. In the present, Jaehyun decides he might as well take the stage to show off his karaoke skills since he's already here. The others look at him in despair, and one of the regulars curses out that someone is terrorizing his ears and requests that such people be banned from karaoke. When he's done, Ina comments that she can see he's also human like the rest of them, and Hoyeon jokes that people can't be perfect at everything. Our boy gets a score of 10 out of 100, and Jaehyun hands the mic to Ina since she's next. When their hands touch, the mic slips out of her hands and she begins to blush. Luckily, our boy catches it and grabs her palm to place the mic there. For a while, Ina's face looks quite red, and when Jaehyun asks her what's wrong, she says she's okay. Finally, she asks them not to expect much from her performance because she's embarrassed, but Yujung assures her she's most likely better than Jaehyun. Ticked off, our boy protests that his skills are quite average, but Yujung is certain he has no self-awareness. After they quiet down, Jaehyun wonders how Ina's singing is and plans to clap even if she's not good. However, when she begins to sing, he realizes she's ridiculously good at it. Meanwhile, Heimdall walks on the streets of Earth, and he spots Yahello around. Eventually she shows herself and tells him she just came to say hi and to ask how his little outing is going. Heimdall accuses the resistant Aesir gods of doing really interesting things this time, but Yahello retorts that it's nothing on the level of what Odin and the Aesir gods have done. Heimdall makes fun of Hel for holding on to the pointless hope that a great adversary of the prophecy will appear and free them. And when she tells him they can never tell, he states that a mere human can't bring down the Aesir gods. When he steps forward, Hel stops him from going further. He tells her to move, but she explains that she can't allow him if he's going to meet the great adversary of the prophecy. Annoyed, Heimdall asks her if she wants to die, but she reminds him he can't use his powers properly here on Earth, and she has the advantage here. However, Heimdall reminds her to be better prepared for her own death if she plans to kill him here. Regardless, she states that she's ready for that because her job and role right now is to stall time for a small break. Ina sings quite well, and she soon turns to ask them how she did when she's done. They look so stunned, and Yujung asks her how she's so good at singing, while Hoyeon accuses her of hiding this from them all this time. When Jaehyun asks her if she took choir classes, she says she didn't. Yujung is surprised that she didn't take any classes, and Ina is surprised that they actually like her voice. She thanks them for the compliment, and informs them this is the second time she's let other people hear her sing. A few days later in Seoul, at Jaehyun's house, our boy hands his mom a gift. When she opens it, it turns out to be checks for allowances. She's surprised that her son has grown so much, and he thought about her at an age where he should be focused on having fun. When she reads through it, she's surprised he has earned so much on his own, and our boy tells her it's all for her. To Jaehyun, he's finally got to say what he's always wanted to tell her. He always wanted to give her a hug, saying that he succeeded, but he was too busy to take care of her in his past life. A lot has changed since his regression. His goal is to protect his family and friends, and then to kill Odin and end all this misery. He promises himself not to let Odin steal the life he just regained. Shortly after, he tells his mom she can live comfortably without worrying about money, and she hugs him and says it must have been hard for him. Our boy begins to tear up, but someone suddenly knocks on the door while they're sharing a hug. It turns out to be Ina, who says hi to him. However, our boy soon finds out that Yoo-jung came along with her. Jae-hyun asks her what she wants this time, so she informs him that she came to invite him because her family is having a barbecue. Jae-hyun remembers that Yoo-jung's parents are coming back today, so she adds that her mom said to bring him over since he's always doing things for them. He jokes that he's had to do things for her since she's a burden, but Yoo-jung tells him to come because her parents are excited to see him. He eventually agrees, and Yoo-jung walks away. Ina notices the moist marks on his shirt, which he had used to clean his face before opening the door, so she asks him if he was crying. Surprised, he informs her that his clothes just got wet while he was doing the dishes, and they both turn aside after an awkward moment. That evening, our boy heads to Yoo-jung's house, and he can tell her family is rich from the grandeur of the house. He runs into Ina and he asks why she's staying at Yoo-jung's house and if Yoo-jung also dragged her here. Surprised, Ina replies that she didn't have anywhere to go, so Jae-hyun apologizes when he recalls that Ina doesn't have a family right now. Soon after, Yoo-jung shows up with her dad, Mr. Kim, right behind her. Yoo-jung's parents are excited to see Jae-hyun, and they exchange pleasantries. Jae-hyun recalls that they were really nice to him the day he lost his mom in his past life. Before he knows it, Mr. Kim locks his arm around his head and jokes that he's grown taller. Jae-hyun wonders if violence runs in their family. And when Yoo-jung's dad lets him go, he asks him if Yoo-jung still bullies him since she used to beat him up, and he'd come crying when they were younger. Soon after, Yoo-jung shows up again and tells her dad to help her with the food and stop fooling around. He goes to help her and asks how she's going to get a boyfriend when she's like that. Before he leaves, he asks Jae-hyun if he wants to volunteer to be Yoo-jung's boyfriend, and the ladies suddenly go mute. Jae-hyun looks surprised, so Mr. Kim begins to list her good qualities. While he's talking, Yoo-jung loses her cool and pinches him, telling him to stop with the nonsense and go help with the chores. The poor man runs to help with the chores, and Yoo-jung tells Jae-hyun to join him. Soon after, the food is ready. Jae-hyun praises Mr. Kim's cooking skills, and Yoo-jung wishes that Hoyeon and Jae-sun could be here to enjoy this with them. While they're eating, Mr. Kim thanks Jae-hyun for helping Yoo-jung with the midterms, but Jae-hyun tells him he didn't do much, and he feels guilty because it was all an act. Soon after, Mrs. Kim tells Jae-hyun she's happy he's doing well, and she was surprised when he said he's going to magic class. She mentions that she was wondering if he joined magic class because he wanted to stay with Yoo-jung, and that comment makes Ina pause her eating. But Jae-hyun clarifies that it's not the case. Mrs. Kim compliments Jae-hyun on how he becomes more handsome each day, and expresses her hope that Yoo-jung would bring home a boyfriend like him. Yoo-jung angrily tells her mom to stop talking and eat because her food is going to get cold. When our boy notices Ina has stopped eating, he asks her if something is wrong, but she tells him it's nothing. Meanwhile, in Hoyeon's house, his father berates him for spending his time saving dying students because he felt bad for them. Mr. On calls his own son a foolish bastard, and he realizes that he would have been arrested alongside Jae-in had he been a tiny bit late. He calls Hoyeon a piece of shit son, and tells him to shut up as he tries to speak. He reminds him that he needs to become South Korea's best raider and get everyone under his feet. He tells him he has to bring down that Jae-hyun no matter what, but Hoyeon tells him to stop. Hoyeon realizes that all his attempts to convince his father don't work because his father always tells him to step on others to climb the social ladder. He tells his father he doesn't want to live life the way he wants him to because this is his life after all. Annoyed, his father grabs his arm and asks if he knows what he's saying, but Hoyeon slaps his hand away. Our warrior turns around and leaves the house despite his father ordering him to come back. Hoyeon realizes he doesn't want to win against Jae-hyun using dishonest means, and he plans to improve through fair methods. Meanwhile, Yoo-jung's parents go out on a late-night movie date, so Jae-hyun commends the fact that her parents are still on good terms. Shortly after, our boy decides to go, and Yoo-jung asks him if he's leaving already. Our boy asks her what she means since it's almost midnight, but Yoo-jung insists that he hang out a bit more. After hesitating for a while, Yoo-jung states that her dad will be mad at him if he does so. And when she asks why, he says he doesn't think they'd be happy with him staying over so late when they're not home. Regardless, Yoo-jung states that they won't get mad if he doesn't do anything bad, and she makes Ina agree with her. Eventually, Jae-hyun decides to stay back. Shortly after, Ina says she's been curious about something and asks them if they're both dating. They both furiously deny it, so Ina says she guessed so because they're really close, and their parents are close too. Yoo-jung clarifies that she and Jae-hyun only like each other as friends, and Jae-hyun leaves shortly after. While he's heading home, Hella approaches him and informs him that he has to go through his second trial as soon as possible. She explains that they cannot stall any longer because Odin has begun to act. Sometime later, Odin has a meeting with the Aesir gods and is annoyed to find out that there's still no news from Heimdall. Thor tells his father that he's overly concerned about the prophecy's adversary, since he's just a human, and an insect can do nothing against a god. Frigg joins her voice to Thor's and tells Odin a human is not a threat to the king of the gods, and reminds him he worries too much. However, Odin informs her humans are creatures that can endlessly learn and grow. At the moment, they cannot kill the great enemy because the prophecy's power can protect him for 10 years. But Odin doesn't want to eliminate the possibility that the adversary will grow more powerful within that time period. Frigg believes that the power of the prophecy that is protecting the great adversary is quickly weakening, and they may not have to wait 10 years before they can kill him. Odin tells her that all their plans will have to be precise because fate has never prophesied their victory. Meanwhile, Jaehyun learns from Hela that the power protecting him from the Aesir is fading. He asks why, since he wasn't attacked by the Aesir until he turned 27 in his past life. So Hela explains that it's because too much of the prophecy's power was used to bring him back to his time period. Apparently, going against the flow of time is not allowed even for a god, and it's surprising that the prophecy's power even held out for this long. In fact, Hela believes that someone she doesn't know had paid dearly to make this possible. When Jaehyun gets home, he's shocked to learn that he's fighting against Heimdall, the white god who looks into the near future and wears a big horn. Since he's already on Earth, Jaehyun worries that they won't have time for this test, but Hela assures him that she's stalled for time. Meanwhile, Heimdall is tied down by Hela's power, and he wonders how Hela can dare to store him, the great Heimdall, in a place like this. While still bound, he screams to Hela not to think she can keep him in such a petty prison. Hela tells Jaehyun she had to use quite a bit of power, but it'll delay Heimdall for a while. When Jaehyun asks where the second trial is going to take place, as if on cue, the news comes up about the recurrent failure of the 11th Great Ruins raid. The news states that a guy named Balak from the European Association joined the raid, creating a lot of hope. But the first trial, called Proof of Qualification, could not be cleared again, and it seems they're not confident about their next attempt. Hela tells Jaehyun that the next trial is in Iceland, the mythology's center and where the giant of the Great Ruins secret is hidden. Apparently, the Great Ruins these guys are attempting were made for the great adversary to foster him into becoming someone who can defeat Odin again. When he asked her what she means by again, she also finds it strange that she used the word again. Apparently, he's the only one who can attempt the Proof of Qualification trial, which will open up the path to the Great Ruins. Meanwhile, Balak watches the news about how they were unable to clear the ruin, and he angrily smashes something as he wonders what sort of ruin this is that they can't get in. He calls out to a lady named Camilla and asks her if she's sure the mages are properly looking into this issue, and she reminds him that she's told him not to doubt others. She tells him to stop being in such a rush because she also wants to enter the only great ruin in the entire world. But Balak still wonders how they're supposed to get past the first trial, which keeps asking them to prove themselves if they want to enter. A few days later, our boy heads to the airport to go to Iceland, and he calls director Kim Ji-yeon to help him make up an excuse to his friends so they don't worry about him. He had to rush the preparation process by using mana stones to reinforce all his artifacts to enter their maximum and level up beyond level 30. As Jaehyun gets into the plane, he knows the Great Ruins are protected by Balak, who doesn't want anyone else to invade it, and he'll have to fight the S-rank raider, who's carrying the real Dragon Slayer sword, Balmung. Meanwhile, Hela, who's traveling in Jaehyun's coat as a cat, hopes to see whether Loki made the right choice by seeing how Jaehyun handles this. The ruins are mysterious burial grounds that popped up all over the world suddenly. After being cleared by raiders, it was revealed that these locations were places where artifacts were hidden. It provided an opportunity to earn items of higher rank than those in normal dungeons, which made the competition intense. The government of each nation had to intervene. During the flight, Hela informs Jaehyun that Mistletoe, the bracelet around his wrist, was an object they had hidden in the ruins, so it wasn't pure coincidence that he was the one who found it. Jaehyun guesses she must be referring to the bubbles of light he saw back then that led him, and he recalls that the beginning of everything was that strange light too. Shortly after, Hela explains that the ruins were created by the giants. Apparently, 10,000 years ago, their guardian and Thor's rival, Hrungnir, created it for the great adversary of the prophecy, as well as the countless humans who would be fighting Odin's army. Jaehyun realizes that it makes sense why the ruins have so many puzzles and riddles, because the giants are known as wise beings, who were said to be confident even in the face of the Aesir gods, even though they met a horrible end. Jaehyun mentions that he has a pretty good item with him. Before he left, he got an A-rank reinforcement item named Shadow Mineral that reinforces his shadow equipment. The Shadow Mineral can be used to reinforce shadow armor that he got after defeating Nightshade. After using the Shadow Mineral, his shadow armor increases to rank A. His Mistletoe activates a passive skill called Genius of Armor Making, which further increases it to an S-rank armor called Armor of Abyss. The Armor of Abyss is said to have been made from the Abyss of Ginnungagap, with an active skill of level 3 Stealth and a passive skill called Shadow Synchronization. Shadow Synchronization is a rank A skill that synchronizes the user with the shadows to create an afterimage. has a 20% chance of deflecting enemy attacks, and has a single 100% chance of deflecting an attack, but doesn't work against light attribute attacks. A few hours later, they reach Iceland, and they lodge in a special hotel where only the awakened are allowed to stay, and one night costs 50,000 won. While going to his room, Jaehyun walks past Balak, who is the head of the European Raider Association, and Camilla. When he walks past them, Balak stops Jaehyun and asks him what he is. As Balak walks back, Camilla tries to stop him, but he doesn't listen, and stands in front of Jaehyun. He asks Jaehyun how old he is and where he's from, but our boy doesn't say anything. Eventually, Camilla steps in between them and asks Balak what he's doing. After apologizing to him, she pushes our boy along and tells him he can keep going because Balak has a rather shitty personality, and that's why he got dumped by his ex-wife. After waving Jaehyun goodbye, Camilla reminds Balak she told him to be careful not to ruin the image of the European Raider Association. She tells him she understands that he's sensitive because their last raid failed, but he shouldn't take his anger out on a kid. However, Balak tells her that's not it, but it's because that kid made no noise at all when he walked, and he knows how to intentionally hide his presence. Meanwhile, at the Mills Academy director's office, Jaehyun's friends are shocked to learn that their friend has gone overseas. Yoojung wonders where he went this time, especially since he randomly got himself in trouble at an amusement park. Hoyeon jokes that Jaehyun gets into trouble, but Ina suddenly interjects by saying that Jaehyun is not the type to get into trouble. At Iceland's Great Ruins, some guards of the European Raider Association notice a strange figure walking towards them, and they tell him to reveal his identity. Jaehyun, who has concealed his identity with the armor, asks them if they can't just let him in because he's too lazy for this shit. As they're about to signal that an invader is present, Jaehyun covers their mouths and activates his brainwashing skill. He apologizes for acting like a criminal, but explains that the ruins were meant for him. Before Jaehyun left Seoul, Hila had told him that the conditions he needed to meet to be allowed into the Great Ruins were first the Nornir system, and secondly that his strength and agility stats had to be over 150, which is basically S-rank level. She hesitates for a while, hoping he's S-rank, but when he tells her he's not, Hela can't believe it, because she saw him defeat Surtur's clone. When she starts to think of a way for him to reach S-rank, Jaehyun tells her there's a way and brings out a rank A key called a cursed key that he got from Flandier's mission. Using his detection key, he recognizes it as Loki's key that can open any door or chest. In the present, Jaehyun finds it strange that he got this key, and it seems as if someone who predicted everything prepared this for him. He sticks the key into the door and it opens up. Before he enters, he prepares his blank card, because he believes it will be of use soon too. He had the option of using it on Seo's cognition accelerant or Soil's detection skill, but he still felt there could be something better he could use it on. Also, if he copies the skill of those around him, he knows people could get suspicious. He makes his way through the hallway, and he sees a giant, who asks him if he's the prophesied great adversary. The giant introduces himself as Smear Hrungnirson, the one who guards the Great Ruins, as directed by his father, Hrungnir. When Hela jumps down, Smear recognizes her as a clone of Hel, so Hela explains to Smear that she's responsible for guiding the great adversary through the 5 trials, and she explains that the power of the prophecy that had been protecting the great adversary is weakening, so they need him to take his trial as soon as possible. While she's still talking, Smear tells her he rejects, and when she asks him why, he explains that the method with which the great adversary opened the door was cheating, and he won't be able to pass the second trial with his present stats. Smear generously proposes that he become stronger and come back, but Hela insists that they don't have time, and the Aesir gods will start acting again once the power of the prophecy runs out. However, Smear insists that rules are rules, and he's fairly certain that Jotunheimer, which he wished to protect, is already covered in ashes, and there is no home for the giants to return to. Since it's already too late, he wonders what difference it makes if they're any later, so Hela realizes that the giant is in despair. However, Jaehyun, who has been boiling with rage, asks them what kind of crap this is. He asks Smear if he's kidding him and tells him he's not a charity organization. RMC explains that he's not something they can use when they need it and then discard, and the only reason he's letting them all control what he does right now is because he sees value in using them too. He activates his level 5 lightning chain skill and tells Smear that he'll need him to move out of the way. RMC explains that he's not something they can use when they need it and then discard, and the only reason he's letting them all control what he does right now is because he sees value in using them too. He activates his level 5 lightning chain skill and tells Smear that he'll need him to move out of the way. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, the guards tell Balak that no one has managed to pass them. That doesn't make sense to Balak, who is certain that someone is in the dungeon because of the mysterious power he felt just now that happens when ruins are opened. Since the doors are open, he's certain he'll be allowed in too. but when he reaches the door, he's told that he's not qualified as usual. Shortly after, Camilla receives a call from Balak very late at night, and he informs her that an invader has entered the Great Ruin. Inside the dungeon, Hela asks Jaehyun what he's doing, and Smir, who is now enraged, calls him a fool and stands up to face him. Smir asks Jaehyun how he dares to defy him in that human body, and his roar releases a destructive amount of energy. Regardless, our boy asks him if he doesn't have any other lines, because he's heard that one so many times that he's sick of it. The reason our boy is doing this is that he'd have to retreat if he gives up on this trial and die while fighting Heimdall. It's either that or dying here, so it's the same thing. So as not to end up with regrets as he did before regressing, he plans to stand his ground. Shortly after, Smir tells the great adversary that his courtesy ends here, and releases a huge arrow from the top that aims right at Jaehyun's head. Oddly, our boy doesn't move out of the way, and uses his absolute calculation skill to destroy the arrow. Next up, he uses his wind boost to launch himself towards Smir. The giant realizes Jaehyun is coming straight for his heart, and he wonders if the great enemy is really planning to take him down and walk away. Smir wonders what's driving Jaehyun to do all this, and our boy senses the feeling of intense pressure similar to when he fought Hugin. He feels this when he's against an opponent that he can't presently win against, and he has no intention of caving this time. Shortly after, he activates his Frozen Earth skill and freezes the ground. Smir notes the skill and says he doesn't know how Jaehyun was able to get his hands on a secret skill of Dark Elves, but he crushes the ice on the ground with one punch and reminds Jaehyun he's weak regardless. A look of despair first crosses Jaehyun's face, but then he smirks. He asks Smir if he's moving the way he expected just because he's stupid and tactless. Our boy soon activates his level 5 fire skill, and another level 5 skill called Air Blast. Jaehyun mixes the ice with fire and shoots them at the giant, blocking his view. He soon activates his level 3 stealth skill to conceal himself, and Smir wonders if he really expects this pathetic trick to work on him. When the fog clears, Smir realizes he disappeared and is unable to find him. Soon after, Jaehyun leaps toward him and slashes at his neck with his sword. Meanwhile, at Seonghan's office, the curator guildmaster, Ms. Baek Ji-hyun, comes back to tell Seonghan that she wants Jaehyun. Seonghan doesn't see the point in repeating this pointless conversation, but Ji-hyun offers to give her the right price in exchange. Seonghan insists that Jaehyun isn't an object to be sold, so Ji-hyun offers her an item known as Nidhogg's Fang. Seonghan hadn't expected the curator guild to offer an S-class item, and she wonders if that's how badly she wants Jaehyun. However, Seonghan smiles and asks her if she plans to lure Jaehyun directly with this item, if Lotus Guild declines their offer. And from Ji-hyun's response, it's clear that that is her plan. Intrigued, Seonghan tells her that she should have gone to Jaehyun instead. But Ji-hyun tells her they prefer to resolve issues in a gentlemanly manner. Ji-hyun gets up and stretches her hand, telling her she'll be expecting her decision. Once again, Seonghan doesn't return her handshake, and Ji-hyun takes her leave. Meanwhile, Jaehyun slashes at the giant's neck, but Smir isn't injured. Smir asks Jaehyun if this is the method he's chosen, and reminds him that Odin and the other Aesir gods are strong, and there's no guarantee his efforts will yield any results. He asks Jaehyun if he still believes he can move forward, but our boy tells him it's better than sitting around doing nothing. He activates his realization of magical artifact to create a mana blade and then activates his genius of armor making to level up the mana blade he created. Regardless, Smir tells the great adversary that he knows nothing, because there is no value in what he's doing. But Jaehyun tells him he's the one who chooses whether his actions have value or not. In a flashback, Smir remembers when his father told him he alone is the one who chooses his value. Jaehyun doesn't hesitate and moves forward to land attacks on Smir, but a sudden outburst of energy from Smir makes Jaehyun unable to move. Smir asks him if he can take responsibility for what he said, and the weight of the energy starts to make Jaehyun bleed from the mouth. In extreme pain, he wonders what he should do and how he can win against this monster. But suddenly, the pressure disappears. Smir reminds him that he just said he's the one who chooses the value of his actions, but also informs him that such claims are only allowed for those with power. Smir offers to give him a chance to prove himself worthy, so he can let him in while Hela hides nearby. After considering it for a while, Jaehyun makes Smir an offer to withstand his ultimate attack just once, and Hela jumps out and asks Jaehyun what he thinks he's saying. She reminds him that Smir possesses divinity and that his present human form isn't capable, but Smir accepts the offer. Smir summons a spear to evaluate if he's worthy of his words, and if he's a being who can resist great fate. Hela tries to stop Smir, but he doesn't listen to her and launches the spear right at Jaehyun, who stands there like a deer in the headlights. The immense power of the spear shakes the entire building, and eventually creates a large gap where it's targeted. After the smoke clears up, Jaehyun remains alive, and he asks Smir if that proves it. He had used his shadow synchronization skill, and the system tells him that the skill will have a 20% likelihood of activation from now on. Smear is surprised, but a smile soon develops on his face, and he allows Jaehyun to go in while Hela just stands there speechless, wondering what a strange human Jaehyun is. As our boy makes his way in, Smear informs him that there are 3 trials of wisdom prepared for him in this ruin. When he asks Jaehyun if he's not afraid, Jaehyun tells him he is, so Smear tells him that's good. While walking into the ruins, Hela asks Jaehyun how he did what he just did, and he says he's not sure either. As they walk further in, they encounter 2 ladies, who welcome him, and introduce themselves as Norn, the gatekeepers of the first trial of wisdom. Hela tells Jaehyun that she can't intervene from this point onwards and warns him to be cautious. The ladies tell him that one of the 2 of them is an angel and the other is a demon. The angel speaks only the truth, and the demon speaks only lies. One of them is a gateway to heaven where the angels reside, and the other is a gateway to hell where the demons reside. Apparently, whichever gate he chooses, he'll be able to reach the next step of the trial. But if he chooses the gate that leads to hell, the undead will continue to get in his way. After they explain, Jaehyun is told that he will be able to ask them just one question, so he has to use the opportunity well. Jaehyun realizes figuring out the right path with just one question is the famous logic riddle, but he's intrigued that both of the paths can still lead him to the next trial. When he decides to ask his question, the Norn tells him there's no need to hurry because there's enough time for him to think. But Jaehyun replies that he doesn't need to think deeply about this. After he points to one of them, he asks her what realm her gate leads to. Jaehyun recognizes this riddle as one called Angel and Demon, a pretty famous riddle that has a pretty well-known solution too. If you ask where they live, the angel will tell you the way to heaven, and if you ask the demon, they will also point you to heaven. The lady he asks walks in front of a gate close to her and says, this is her gate. She asks him if this gate is his choice, but Jaehyun tells her he's going to go through the second gate instead. After he makes the choice, Hela is shocked and follows him in. She asks him if he's out of his mind and why he would intentionally choose the gate that leads to hell. But Jaehyun reminds her of the saying that nothing is hard work when you're young. Eventually, he reveals to her that he chose this gate because they told him the undead will try to stop him, and Hela suspects he has other plans. When the undead start to come out, Jaehyun activates his sacrifice skill and switches it to an offense skill called Judgment of Light. Using the Judgment of Light, he incinerates them, and he keeps leveling up. To Jaehyun, gaining all these experience points is the real meaning of heaven. Hela just watches glumly and calls Jaehyun an evil human, suspecting that he must be a demon. Meanwhile, the Norn sisters confess that Jaehyun made the most foolish but also the wisest decision, just like Mimir prophesied. Sometime later, Jaehyun covers the distance and is taken to another place through a portal. He considers it a shame that the previous trial is already over, because it was a rare opportunity to level up. In the second room, they find a complex magic activation on the ground, and our boy guesses that this test condition must be that he has to find a way to escape. A voice suddenly confirms his suspicions, which is later identified as the gatekeeper of the second trial. Hela recognizes this voice and wonders how he is here, but the voice asks her to let him introduce himself. The voice introduces himself as Mimir, the one who made the Nornir system and the one who set his fate. Mimir explains that Loki came to him a long time ago to ask for advice on how to foster the last hope, the great enemy of the prophecy, and how to free oneself from Odin's eye. The answer to that was the Nornir system. Shocked that he's meeting the one who created the system he's using, Jaehyun asks him why he didn't explain his plans from the start. So Mimir informs him that it's hard to approach him because of the contract with the Aesir gods, and the Aesir system that all the Awakened used held them back. For a while, Mimir and Hela chat about how they won't be able to guarantee that the great adversary will be alive if the war they're expecting happens earlier than expected. Eventually, Mimir explains that the reason he's not intervening is to test if Jaehyun is worthy. Apparently, he was unable to say anything to Jaehyun before because there were too many eyes, and the reason they're able to converse like this is because they're inside the great ruins. Jaehyun decides to ask Mimir a question. He recognizes that since he was chosen by fate to be the great enemy, his will shouldn't matter. So he asks Mimir why he asked how he felt about the matter right before he died in his past life when he was most desperate. Meanwhile, Yujung and Ina wonder what Jaehyun is doing overseas that's making him not answer his texts. While they all talk about Jaehyun, Yujung laments that she just wants to be with him. But before the words come out of her mouth fully, she becomes embarrassed and quickly corrects that she said that because she's the only one who can put up with him. Shortly after, Seo talks about her plans to attend Meal's Academy soon, and how she's already looked into their room sizes. So Hoyeon sincerely asks her what she will do if she ends up failing the entrance exams. The question leaves her in despair and she accuses him of being mean, which shocks him. Ina finally says she hopes Jaehyun comes back soon, and Yujung agrees. In the Great Ruins, Mimir answers that they didn't want to leave the fate of the world in the hands of someone who couldn't even get up on his own. So he gave him an opportunity to change his fate back then. Jaehyun mentions that he has many more questions, but he guesses Mimir won't be able to answer them all. Eventually, Mimir offers to give him a hint about the truth if he passes this trial. To explain the second trial, Mimir tells him that he has to offer one of the objects in the room by placing it on the altar. However, he has to keep two things in mind. First, that this is to earn wisdom, and secondly, that he only gets one chance. When Jaehyun despairs because he's going to have to look through all this stuff, Mimir recognizes his thoughts because he can access his thoughts through the Nornir system. Mimir decides to give Jaehyun two hints for the trial. The first is that he already has the wisdom he could earn from this altar, and the second is that he came to the ruins 2 days earlier than they planned because today is Monday. Jaehyun is still pretty confused, but Mimir tells him that's all the hints he can get, so he asks Jaehyun to show him his wisdom. Before Jaehyun begins, Mimir adds one last condition to this trial, which is that Jaehyun will die here if he fails to pass this trial. Annoyed, our boy thinks within himself that Mimir is a real son of a B-word because he knows he can hear his thoughts. The cursing makes Mimir laugh, and he tells him he has an hour to bring up an answer, and an hourglass is set up. Jaehyun thinks about what Mimir said about him already possessing the wisdom, and how Mimir meant he was supposed to come here on Wednesday. None of that seems to relate to this trial, so he decides to calm down and think back to where it all began. Before he does anything, Jaehyun decides to try out his mana detection to check out all the items, but he doesn't pick up anything special. He keeps thinking about the wisdom he already possesses, and Wednesday, as the time continues to count. Eventually, he decides there's only one possibility remaining for what Mimir expects from him. After he generates a spear, the Nornir system asks him what he will sacrifice to the altar, so he decides to sacrifice himself. The system reminds him he only gets one chance and asks if that's his choice, so he cheerfully says it is. Suddenly, the magic circle under his feet lights up, and Mimir tells him that he gave the correct response. Jaehyun recognized that the wisdom he already possesses refers to the knowledge of runes that he earned after obtaining Odin's lost eye. Second, the word Wednesday is rooted in the term Day of Woden, and Woden is Odin's other name. Odin is said to have sacrificed himself in order to gain knowledge of life and the afterlife. If that has something to do with this trial, then it's clear that he needed to offer himself on this altar. Eventually, Mimir asks him if he knows the meaning behind the choice he just made, so Jaehyun tells him he knows Odin was hung upside down on Yggdrasil and speared through for 9 days. He tells Mimir he's someone who's willing to put his life on the line if it's to get what he wants, so our boy removes his armor and stabs himself with the spear in his hand, despite Yahello's protest. As he drives the spear through his stomach, he asks Mimir if this is what he wanted to see. Jaehyun recognizes that sacrificing oneself means enduring the threat of death. To end things a bit sooner, our boy activates his realization of magical artifact skill to create another spear and stabs himself with it again. Yahello clamors for him to stop, but Jaehyun generates another spear, and as he's about to stab himself, Mimir tells him it's enough, and then drops him back onto the magic circle. When he drops him, Mimir tells him he's changed quite a bit and no longer needs his advice. Jaehyun is surprised that the injury is gone, and Mimir tells him the test is over, and that he's shown him he's better than he thought him to be. To keep his end of the promise, Mimir gives Jaehyun 3 words that he says will become a sentence again, and will guide him to the truth. Jaehyun protests that he's using an indirect method to answer his questions, but Mimir pleads with him that he has to answer like this to avoid the eye of the Aesir gods. Mimir informs Yahello that even she doesn't know about the thing he's about to say, which surprises her. The first word is raider, the second is eye, and the third is shinier. Jaehyun can't seem to make sense of the words, and he wonders what they're supposed to mean. To help him, Mimir leaves him with one last piece of advice: to doubt the system, as he believes that will help him reach the truth. After Mimir leaves, Jaehyun considers his words carefully. At a glance, all 3 words seem to be pointing to him. Raider is his job. The eye refers to Odin's lost eye, and his present is shinier than his past. However, it doesn't explain why he specifically used the word shinier, and why he should doubt the system. To offer some comfort, Yahello tells him she'll also think about what it could mean and proposes they move on to the next trial. As they move forward, Smear shows up and informs Jaehyun that the last trial now awaits him. Smear tells him the huge mirror in front of him is the next trial. Apparently the mirror is known as the Mirror of Erd, the first of the 3 Norns. It's an artifact that shows the past. Jaehyun will see the memories of a Jotun, and he's to watch the memory and come back to tell Smear the answer he has earned to pass the trial. Jaehyun asks him if there's an answer he's looking for, but Smear tells him there isn't, and any response he has is not for him to judge. Once he's ready, Smear tells him to place his hand on the mirror, and Erd, the 3rd Norn sister, touches his hand from inside the mirror. She's glad he's finally here and tells him she's been waiting for him. She tells him she's Erd and intertwines her fingers with his. As she holds him, she explains that she's waited a long time for him, holding on to this broken past, which is a fragment of the past that an old being wishes to show him. She leads him toward the first piece of the memory, and takes him to a place that Hel, who is following behind, calls Jotunheimer, the land of the giants. Because of how Jaehyun and Erd spoke, Hela asks Jaehyun if he's met Erd before, and he says he's not sure. Erd soon asks them to quiet down and look at the past in front of them, but explains to Jaehyun that he won't be able to change anything because this story has ended. It's merely an echo of the past that Hrungnir, the once great Jotun, relayed unto the great adversary. When Jaehyun turns back, he sees Hrungnir asking the once young Smear what he thinks a good lord should be like. Smear responds that a good lord needs to be strong in order to protect others, and Hrungnir agrees but explains that a good lord should know to share with others and take care of them, while also being able to acknowledge his own shortcomings. He tells Smear he hopes he will become a Jotun like that someday too, but Smear replies that he's weak and scared of a lot of things, including Thor's hammer. Smear laments that he could never have any value as a lord, but Hrungnir tells him not to judge his value so easily, because the only one who can decide his value is himself. When they hear that, Jaehyun and Hela realize that it's that statement that made Smear open up to him. Suddenly, a frantic giant enters the room to inform Hrungnir that Thor and the Valkyries have invaded the city. Hrungnir tells Smear not to worry, because he'll do all that he can to protect them. After that first vision, Erd explains that it was a dark past. But the misery of the giants did not end here. She decides to show him the second piece, and he's suddenly translated to a time when the city is burning. Everywhere he looks, corpses and blood fill his sight. Hela mentions that this is the war of the end, Ragnarok, right before the contract was written, and the man standing over all the corpses is the god of thunder and lightning, Thor. Jaehyun beholds Thor and realizes he's way too strong for him as he is right now. Even if he reaches S rank, he can't face a monster like him. Eventually, he asks the women what he needs to do to become as strong as Thor, and Hela tells him he has to pass the 5 trials. In the vision, Thor mentions that he always hated giants, and he's intrigued that they're not giving up but still want to fight him. To show his respect for such warriors, he offers the king of the giants, Hrungnir, a chance to avoid a massacre of his kind if he will fight him one-on-one. Shortly after, Hrungnir comes out and asks him if he will truly let the others go for the price of his head, and Thor swears on his name to do that. Hrungnir accepts the offer, and Thor promises to return soon for their fight. Word explains that Thor's change of mind, Hrungnir's sacrifice, and the war between Jotunheimer and Asgard ended with Asgard being the victor. After that, she decides to show him the last piece of the past. Sometime later, Smear pleads with his father not to go fight with Thor because it's a trap. Hrungnir tells him he's aware but he has no choice but to go. The weeping Smear asks him why he must do this and reminds him he's the only family he has left. Hela informs Jaehyun that the place those in the vision are standing in is called Asgard, the world where the Aesir gods and Odin reside. In the vision, Hrungnir reminds Smear that he has always told him not to be afraid, because he's sure he'll do well without him. While Smear cries, his father tells him that the prophesied great adversary will one day come to him, and that great adversary will free them and all other species from the Aesirs. Before he leaves, Hrungnir tells Smear to protect his grave, the Great Ruins. Jaehyun realizes the ruins are the memorials for the giants who died and a symbol of a hopeful future. In the vision, Hrungnir speaks to Jaehyun directly and tells him he knows he'll be seeing this memory in the future, so he asks him to help his child, Smear. Hrungnir soon steps out to meet Thor, who has been excitedly waiting to fight him for a while. Hrungnir asks Thor if he's satisfied now, but Thor says he isn't. The god summons his hammer and says he'll only be satisfied after he kills Hrungnir. Thor fires streaks of lightning at the giant, who blocks them with his weapon. After he stops, Hrungnir asks Thor why he's killing innocent lives for the sake of his greed. So Thor confesses that everything is the will of the great Odin, and he personally doesn't have any reasons. Apparently, Thor's only reason for doing this is to fight a strong opponent. Eventually, Thor asks Hrungnir why he agreed to this fight knowing he's going to die. After a short pause, Hrungnir tells him he has something to protect, and Thor jokingly wonders what he still has to protect when most of his kind has been reduced to ashes. However, Hrungnir assures him that they're still valuable because Asgard will fall someday. When Thor realizes that Hrungnir also believes the prophecy of the 3 Norn sisters, he calls it idle talk and proceeds to end Hrungnir's life. Before Hrungnir is taken out, he speaks directly to the great enemy again and tells him that the path he must take is chosen solely by him and him alone, and he tells him to have a firm will. Apart from that, he asks him to tell Smear that he's sorry. Thor soon throws his hammer at Hrungnir's weapon. The sheer force of the attack destroys the weapon and smashes Hrungnir's head. Jaehyun finds this ending really messed up. and he suddenly brings out his blank card to get back at Thor. Luckily for him, the Nornir system tells him he can use a blank card. Hrungnir is soon taken out and Thor stands over his dead body. Suddenly he notices some runes shining out of the dead giant's weapon, which were the inscriptions Hrungnir was making on his weapon while he was speaking with Smear. Thor realizes that Hrungnir has used a petty trick on him, and a huge explosion soon occurs, and strings of light are tied around Thor to hold him down. Thor realizes Hrungnir set this counterattack to be triggered by his death, but Thor doesn't believe something so petty will kill him, so he releases a huge amount of energy to burn the binds away. Suddenly, the Nornir system informs Jaehyun that the rank of the skill he is copying is too high for his level and cannot be properly used until his level is higher. Thor soon successfully burns away all the binds holding him. However, he's suddenly targeted by a small force that remains from Hrungnir's magic that pierces his head. The attack pushes Thor backward, and when he gets up, he finds out that his head is bleeding and Hrungnir had launched an object into his head to repress his power, and it amuses him, because Thor's power has been repressed. The system allows Jaehyun to register Thor's passive skill known as Lightning God's Power. Yahello asks how it's possible to use a blank card on someone inside a memory, and tells her it wouldn't be possible if this was just an illusion. However, it's not an illusion but a fragment of the past that's being passed down to the future generation, which means that Hrungnir's sacrifice wasn't meaningless after all. Jaehyun is able to register the Lightning God's Power, which is of legendary rank. He now possesses Thor's lightning, which greatly increases the efficiency and potency of all lightning-type skills. It increases lightning damage by 300% and lightning efficiency by 50%. However, because the skill is too high in rank for the user's level, it cannot be maintained for long without permanent damage to the body. When Yahello asks him if he's sure about this, our boy tells her he'll just grow strong enough to be able to handle it, and tells her he's sure she'll help him. Soon after, tells them it's time to say farewell once again, but she confesses she can't get used to saying farewell to him once again. Confused, our boy asks her why he can't remember knowing her before, but she tells him there's no point in finding out now. She encourages him to leave the past and go to a new future since there is no space for her in his fate. The veil on her face suddenly disappears, and she tells him she wishes his journey is filled with blessings throughout. Tears drop from Erd's eyes and she eventually disappears. For a while, our boy just stares at the mirror and hesitates before he turns back towards Smear. Smear decides to ask him one question for his last test. Smear asks him if he's ready, and if he's capable of not straying from his path, even if he were to lose something important to him. Jaehyun thinks about his mother, teacher and friends. Then he replies that he can't. He confesses that he'll be shaken up, sad and in pain, just like Smear. But he'll get up again because he must move forward. Smear likes the answer and tells him he's qualified to pass this trial. Immediately, the system notifies him that his level has gone up by 4, and he's obtained the title, the one who overcame the second trial. Apart from that, he's notified that he's received a gift from Hrungnir. Before Jaehyun leaves, he tells Smear that his father told him to tell him he's sorry, then leaves. When Smear is alone, he says out loud to his father that he never resented him for what he did. When Jaehyun reaches the gate of the dungeon, he's shocked to find the entire European Raider Association waiting for him. Yahello realizes the men are very skilled and it's going to be hard to sneak out. Jaehyun finds it unsettling that they would treat him like a thief. But he understands they feel that way because the European Union put a lot of money into the rights to raid this place. Our boy knows he can't take on 2 S ranks at once with the skills he has right now, so he asks Hela to take care of things while he stalls for time. Hela informs him she'll send a signal, so she asked him to distract the men until then. Jaehyun finally steps out in his armor and Balak steps out to meet him. Balak asks him if he cleared the dungeon, and Jaehyun asks him what will happen if he did. Enraged, Balak points his spear at his neck, and he's certain that the intruder cleared it since he doesn't feel mana coming from the ancient ruins, but he doesn't understand how he was able to. Jaehyun recognizes the sword with Balak as the original Dragonslayer sword, Balmung, the real S-rank artifact. Our boy informs Balak that this ruin was meant just for him, and they never would have succeeded no matter how many times they tried. Annoyed, Balak asks him if he's saying they're not good enough, and Jaehyun tells him it's possible. He reminds him that he couldn't even get in because he failed to prove himself worthy, and Balak almost curses at him. Annoyed, Balak tells him his original plan was to bring him to their side, but he's changed his mind. He tells our boy he won't kill him because there are a lot of things he can find out from him. And Jaehyun is glad he fell for such an obvious provocation. Eventually, Jaehyun tells him to try to kill him if he can, and he generates a sword he was able to get thanks to encountering Balak. Our boy recreates the rank S Dragonslayer's sword, Balmung, and Balak just stares at him in confusion. To answer his questions, Jaehyun reminds him there's no law that states there can't be 2 Balmungs. Balak immediately attacks him, but our boy moves backward using his Step of Light skill. The angry raider keeps trying to attack him, but Jaehyun keeps dodging each attack. Eventually, when he stops, Jaehyun tells him he's slower than he expected. This further annoys Balak, who confesses that there are not many who can dodge his sword even among S-rank raiders. And he wonders who on earth Jaehyun is. Shortly after, Camilla shows up and warns Balak to be careful because the sword the intruder is holding has the same mana as his Balmung. Jaehyun reminds Balak that he won't kill him, but he's going to take his limbs. Recalling that Hugin had said just that to him, our boy asks Balak to stop talking because he's about to trigger his PTSD. Balak looks at him confused, so Jaehyun references an article he read about him that said he went through a divorce and decides to ask why. Suddenly Camilla tells Jaehyun he's crossing the line because Balak's wife divorced him because he has a shit personality and he's boring. She doesn't make the matter any better. So Balak tells Jaehyun they'll continue this conversation in the interrogation room. Yahello soon informs Jaehyun that she's ready and asks him to wrap things up, but he asks her to hold on a second, which further infuriates her. Our boy enjoys this opportunity to fight an S-rank raider, so he activates his overdrive skill and equips his incomplete B-rank Ring of Transcendence to momentarily amplify his mana to increase the force of his magic. After he activates it, the system warns him that he'll not be able to use mana for a while after using this skill. Camilla is shocked to witness that his mana has suddenly changed, so she warns Balak to back off. Balak creates a barrier around himself as Jaehyun releases a mana force field. But the power of the force still shatters the mana barrier, which is unbelievable. Jaehyun recalls that the Thor he saw in Hrungnir's memories was ridiculously strong, and he assumes Heimdall is the same. He decides that the only way for him to get stronger in a short period of time is for him to continue fighting stronger opponents. Immediately Balak tries to slash him again, but our boy dodges the attack. Both of them soon collide, the force of their individual Balmungs releasing an explosive energy in their surroundings that knocks Balak several feet into the sky. Shocked, Camilla catches him with her magic, and she wonders how this intruder was able to defeat the European Union's leader like this. Balak lies on the ground unconscious with blood gushing out of his mouth, and Camilla decides she can't let a monster like this roam around the city. As Jaehyun takes his leave, Camilla turns to him and asks him if he really thinks she'd let him run away. She activates a skill called Hellfire, and another called Wind Chaser, releasing a huge dark energy. Meanwhile, the Nornir system informs Jaehyun that his mana usage will be restricted for the time being as a penalty for the overdrive skill he used. When Yahello realizes our boy can't do anything, she decides he's had enough fun and takes them out of there. On the other end, Camilla senses that the mana response disappeared before her attack even reached her opponent, and she considers tracking him. However, Balak, who is now back on his feet, tells her to give it up because it's too dangerous to go after him. He proposes they go back to the main base, and Camilla asks him if he's sure of that since he hates contacting them. Surprised, Camilla tells Balak he's different from usual and asks him if something happened, so he informs her that the intruder purposefully didn't kill him. When she hears that, Camilla decides to contact the main base. When he's left alone, Balak realizes he may not know the man, but he's certain they'll meet again, and he won't lose again when they do. Meanwhile, Yahello berates Jaehyun for being so impulsive, but he only laughs and tells her they can go back home now. The next day, after Jaehyun lands at the airport, he receives a call from Ina. The reason Ina is calling him is to ask if he's decided which circle he's going to sign up for. Yahello berates Jaehyun for being so impulsive, but he only laughs and tells her they can go back home now. The next day, after Jaehyun lands at the airport, he receives a call from Ina. The reason Ina is calling him is to ask if he's decided which circle he's going to sign up for. A circle is one of the main policies of all raider academies in the nation, and it's like an activity club for raiders. Second and third years are usually the ones to create circles to bring in first years, and they usually take requests from public institutions. The academy will receive mediating fees during this process, and the students also have an opportunity to earn money and gain connections. The circle is a means to gain experience through circle activities before entering a guild. It seems like a good idea, but to Jaehyun, it's only beneficial if it can help you enter an influential guild. Otherwise, it's a loss. Before his regression, Jaehyun entered a low-ranking circle, and he ended up being basically enslaved. In the present, he already planned to enter the same circle as his friends anyway, but he decides it's no fun if he makes it easy for them. To play around, he tells Ina he doesn't know yet and he'll find a suitable one. Ina informs him that they're talking about entering the same circle, and she asks him if he wants to join them while the rest of them listen in on the call. Jaehyun tells her he thinks he'd rather choose on his own, and after a short pause, Yoojung takes the phone and angrily asks Jaehyun if he plans to abandon them by entering a circle alone. Our boy tries to remind her that he didn't promise to go into the same circle with them, but Yoojung insists that once they're a team, they're always a team. Our boy teases her about being after his first ranking benefits, but Yoojung tells him she doesn't care about that. Eventually, Jaehyun offers to join the same circle as them on the same condition, but he says he's going to tell them when he gets back to the academy. After he ends the call, Jaehyun recalls that the fact that they have to join circles soon means that something that happened in his past life is approaching. There's usually outdoor camping that's carried out alongside the registration time period for circles, and the location is in the locked-down area of Daegu, where Meal's Academy was built is only a part of a closed-down area, and there are still tons of monsters outside the academy. Meals has been holding outdoor camping events every year to bring down the number of monsters. Jaehyun takes a portal back to the academy and returns to his apartment. While having a chat with Hila, she suggests they look at the gift that Hrungnir gave him. Suddenly Hela freezes, and when Jaehyun asks her what's wrong, she reminds him that she had told him she stalled for time by tying down Heimdall, but she just sensed that he's been freed. Meanwhile, Heimdall breaks through the fabric of space and crawls out into a locked-down area. He's annoyed that he was embarrassed like that by a clone. When he looks around, he notices the area is locked down and wonders if Hila was trying to keep him away from humans. He's very annoyed, and as if to make matters worse, a nearby monster spots him and jumps down behind him to have him his lunch. Heimdall doesn't even turn around to look at the monster, so it bends forward to gobble him up since he's not putting up a fight. As the monster covers his head in its mouth, Heimdall tightens his fist, releasing a huge amount of energy that tears the monster's head into bits. Heimdall decides to have some fun and meet up with our MC to test him. Meanwhile, Hela laments when she realizes that Heimdall is going to a shut-off area near Meal's Academy. From our boy's expression, she suspects he knows why Heimdall is going there, so Jaehyun informs her that that is where Milla's students are going to be camping. Hela becomes worried when she realizes what Heimdall wants. Apparently Heimdall has the ability to read the immediate future, so he must have read Jaehyun's future. Our boy realizes that it seems his friends are going to get involved in this, and it makes him bothered even though he had been expecting it. He decides to prepare as much as he can to fight Heimdall head-on, so he decides to check Hrungnir's gift to see how much it can help. Jaehyun opens Hrungnir's gift and he gets a consumable item called Giant's Blood. The item is a rank S+ item that contains both power and wisdom to increase his strength and wisdom stats. However, the item can only be used when he meets the minimum requirements of strength and wisdom, so Jaehyun suspects this is why there was a requirement of being S rank to enter the Great Ruins. He'd have to get a wisdom and strength rank above 150 to use this item, and that requires him to become S rank. Apart from that, Jaehyun receives a passive skill called Hrungnir's Rage, an extraordinary rank skill that allows all damages against Aesir gods and Valkyries to become double. Hela cheerfully asks him what he thinks about the skills and boasts that this is the reason she had said he needs to hurry with the second trial. Jaehyun is also pleased, and he pets her head because he's glad she hurried him up. However, Hela jumps out of his reach and asks him what he's doing. Eventually, she calms down and transforms back into her human form, then tells him she knows a way to help him. The next afternoon, Jaehyun is seen bleeding from his eyes and nose after trying to use Thor's lightning skill. He laments to Hela that this is not easy, so she tells him it's expected since the skill he obtained is a legendary rank skill, which cannot even be compared to S rank or extraordinary rank. She warns that he'll destroy his body just trying to use the skill if he doesn't manage to level up enough. And Jaehyun realizes he needs to learn to use the skill as soon as possible. Sometime later, while he's taking a stroll, he thinks about a way to level up. He remembers the special quest, Raven Hunter, that the system gave him a while back, which required him to get rid of all Odin's ravens. He's only taken out 1 out of 5, and he needs more for a blank card and a rank increase. This seems to be the only way for now, but it doesn't seem to be a good idea because time is running out. He also considers that he can take care of any permanent body damage incurred from using Thor's ability for too long using sacrifice, but that won't get to the root of the issue. Suddenly a nearby car honks at Jaehyun, so he waits to see if it's friend or foe. It turns out to be Guildmaster Jihyun, who tells Jaehyun it's a coincidence to run into him in a place like this. Our boy recognizes her, so she asks him if Lotus is treating him well, because she heard he signed a contract with them recently. Jaehyun immediately realizes why she's here to see him, and jokingly asks her if she's not too busy to be meeting him here coincidentally. Eventually he asks her if she perhaps ran a background check on him or something, which surprises Jihyun. Because of how tense the situation is, Hela decides to excuse herself. Nearby, Sungjai hides his presence with his stealth skill. He soon places a call to Seongan to inform her that the Curator Guild has gotten into contact with Jaehyun. He also informs her that he thinks Jaehyun has found out he was following him around, based on how he looks toward where he was standing. Shortly after, our boy meets with Jihyun privately to ask why she wanted to see him. She directly informs him that she wants to scout him, so he reminds her that she knows he's already in a guild. To make the offer interesting, she offers Nidhogg's Fang, and our boy's eyes widen. She seems to be casually offering to give him an S-rank item of astronomical value. Meanwhile, Hela goes to Hel's temple to ask Hel to lend her some of her power. Hel reminds Hela that she's just a fragment of herself, so her power would be unstable in her hands, even if she were to give it to her. Hela agrees that she probably won't be able to use it properly, or may die trying, although she acknowledges that even if she survives receiving the power, she probably would die soon. Hela decides that she wants to do this, because that's what she's for, as the guide of the fifth trial and the compass for the great enemy. She believes she solely exists for his sake and for prophecy. Hel protests that there should be another way to do this, but Hela confesses that she's actually curious to see the future that Jaehyun will write amidst all the struggles, even if she won't get to see that future. When Hel realizes she's made up her mind, she agrees to give her power but wishes for her to be happy, regardless of the decision she makes. Meanwhile, Sungjai tells Seongun that he thinks Guildmaster Jihyun is going to try to convince Jaehyun herself, although he believes that Jaehyun isn't one to be fooled by money. Seongun reminds him that Jihyun has something more valuable than money to offer. Seongun realizes that Jihyun judged Jaehyun's potential to be better than she herself had done. Surprised, Sungjai asks her if she's going to let Jaehyun be, so she replies that it's not in her hands because Jaehyun is well on his way to being the world's strongest raider. Regardless, she states that she has never and will never let someone take something she's interested in. In the Curator Guild meeting room, Jihyun asks Jaehyun what he thinks about her offer. Recognizing that he's only seated with her because he wants something, she asks Yeonju to bring Nidhogg's Fang to the table, and it catches our boy's attention. Nidhogg's Fang is a renowned blade that was ranked second after the Balmung in Jaehyun's life. But Jaehyun playfully asks her why she's showing him this. Eventually, Jihyun proposes to Jaehyun that they become honest with each other. To fulfill her desires, Jaehyun's aura suddenly changes, and he asks her to say what she wants, which shocks Jihyun since he's just a student. She refuses to let herself show fear, and Jaehyun tells her he knows she's trying to conceal her fear. She's surprised, which makes him eventually smile as he acknowledges her offer to give him Nidhogg's Fang to join the Curator Guild. Jihyun reminds him no one else can offer him something this valuable, and our boy agrees because only a crazy guildmaster would invest so much into a 17-year-old. However, our boy points out that Curator doesn't hire battle-type raiders, so Jihyun confesses that she judged that it's time their guild changed, and he'll be their first battle-type raider. When Jaehyun probes further because he feels there's more to the story, Jihyun admits that stealing him from the Lotus Guild and gaining connections in the Raider Association are the real reason she offered him Nidhogg's Fang. Jihyun also adds that the contract allows him to take most of the profits, but while she's talking, Jaehyun suggests she let him touch it just once since it's a weapon he might end up using. The truth, however, is that he's about to activate his realization of magical artifact to try to replicate the weapon. Since he's valuable enough to her, she lets him do that, and Jaehyun holds the weapon in his hand. With a smile on his face, he returns the weapon and tells Jihyun that he doesn't think the weapon is really his style, and thanks her for the offer. When he gets up to leave, Jihyun asks him if he doesn't like the weapon, but he tells her he's not saying that. It's just not his style. This time, Jihyun becomes angry and asks him who in the world cares about taste when it comes to an S-rank artifact. She reminds him this is a golden opportunity he's turning away, and that he can't buy this with all the money in the world. But Jaehyun stops her by saying he doesn't have anything more to talk about. As he politely asks to excuse himself, Jihyun just stands there, totally stunned. When he eventually leaves, she collapses into the chair and realizes Jaehyun is just like his master, Seongun. Anger wells up in her, and she promises to make them regret this. Shortly after, our boy returns home and activates his realization of magical artifact skill to obtain a copy of Nidhogg's Fang, which he hadn't expected to get so early on. Nidhogg is the name of the great and dangerous poison dragon recorded in legends. The dragon inhabits a spring, Virgelmere, hidden deep inside Niflheimer. However, Jaehyun remembers that he needs to be more calculating and careful now. He wonders how strong Heimdall is, and figures he may just be as strong as Thor. The thought of battling against the gods makes him think he's gone insane from the nonsensical situation he's in. But he's still curious to know how strong he is compared to them. He wonders if he'll be able to change the fate that Urd showed him through the mirror. Sometime later, in the Mills Academy main circle executive conference room, the top students at Mills Academy gather to have a discussion. A lady watches them from nearby and is surprised by the strength of their auras, which can almost be mistaken for those of veteran raiders. However, what surprises her is that all these circle leaders are here to recruit one person. Min Jae-hyun, one of the students, Jong Hyun, the leader of the school's #1 circle, guardian, tells the rest of them that they're going to take Jae-hyun, so he tells the others to give it up. Another circle leader reminds Hyun it's their turn this time since the guardian group took the best students last year too. She also reminds them that there's a rule that mages and martial art raiders stay out of each other's territories, which means they should be the ones to receive Jae-hyun. The girl watching the leaders excitedly takes pictures of them, and recognizes the lady who just spoke as Han Ji-an, the leader of the circle called Seonggaeon, named after Yu Seonggaeon, who inspired them to start their circle. Another guy in the room tells Jian to piss off with her crap, especially since the media has clarified that Jaehyun is a battle mage, so it makes no sense for a circle of mages to recruit him. The lady from before continues excitedly taking her pictures and points out that the guy who just spoke is Gang Juhyub, the leader of the second-place circle called Garam. Hyun reiterates that Jaehyun is a perfect candidate for his circle since he's a warrior type too. But Juhyub calls bull on his statement. To make things fair, Jian proposes that they let Jaehyun choose the circle he goes into so he can consider the one with the best offer. Juhyub scoffs that it's not that simple and calls Jian stupid because she seems to have forgotten why they're here in the first place. She quickly attacks him by saying he has brawn instead of brains, which leads to an intense argument. Circles are watched closely by the public, and many guilds keep an eye on circles in order to scout students with good performances. Because of this, the circle leaders have been trying to maintain a balance between each other. However, the girl with the camera believes that Jaehyun is dangerous and might completely destroy the delicate balance that the circles have been maintaining. While they're arguing, the fourth leader at the table suggests that they all make their offers to Jaehyun, and if he accepts, they'll let each other know ahead of time. However, the circle that takes Jaehyun cannot take any of his friends and must also give up on at least 2 academy events. The camera lady frantically takes pictures of the lady who just spoke, Chae Ji-yoon, the leader of the Third Eye Circle. Apparently, her circle is the least known among the circles in the room, but she's managed to grow it on her own. Juhyub agrees that Ji-yoon's proposition is nice, and the rest of them agree with her. The lady with the camera is simply amazed by their meeting and hopes this will make a great article. Meanwhile, our boy receives a call from Ina, who asks him to go somewhere with her. Ina had called to ask him if he wants to go to the National Raider Festival with her. He asks why she asked all of a sudden, so she stammers that there are a lot of things to see there, and Yoo-jung said that every raider should go there at least once in their lives. Jaehyun asks her if the other guys are going too, and Ina pauses for a while before saying that the other guys don't have time. Eventually Jaehyun proposes they go together then. He considers that it's about time for the black market to thrive, and it's not a bad idea to go there now, considering what happened before his regression. He hopes to be able to find an ace card to help him fight Heimdall too. When he asks when she wants to go, she proposes they go in 2 days from now, on April 25th, and proposes they meet at the park at 9 a.m. for the festival. She's glad she didn't stutter this time, so Jaehyun tells her it sounds like it'll be fun. After they hang up the call, Ina stares at her phone and believes it will be fun too. Shortly after, our boy returns to the academy because he forgot something there. While there, he runs into Yoo-jung on the men's floor and asks her if she's thinking about becoming a man. Annoyed, she almost insults him but later confesses that she had something to ask him. She tells him that she came to ask if he wants to go to the National Raider Festival with her. On the morning of the festival, Ina shows up at the park, and she wonders if she came too early. Soon after, our boy shows up and comments that she's early. He says he was going to come early to take a quick look around, but she's earlier than he is, so he proposes they go inside. As he walks in, Ina just stands for a while, holding her red-hot cheeks in her hands. Meanwhile, some folks around recognize Jaehyun, and they also recognize Seo Ina walking with him. Ina turns away to avoid the gaze of the hundreds of people fixed on them, and she starts to become uncomfortable. Suddenly, Jaehyun grabs her hand and suggests they walk faster, and it startles her that he'd grab her hand. When they're alone, Jaehyun asks her how she asked him to come to a place like this when she's socially anxious. She apologizes that she's not used to it yet, but our boy simply asks her if she's had breakfast and mentions that there's a toast place he knows she likes. Ina is surprised he'd know a toast place she likes and eventually follows him there. The night Yoo-jung came to the academy to ask him to go to the National Raider Festival with her, our boy immediately remembers how Yoo-jung had said the other guys don't have time. Yoo-jung teases him that he's going to be cooped up in his house the whole weekend anyway, but Jaehyun places a hand on her head and apologizes because he already has plans. He proposes they go next time, but Yoo-jung just remains silent for a while. While in the park, our boy and Ina look around, play some games and enjoy some toast. A short while later, it begins to rain, so Jaehyun goes to get an umbrella. He mentions that this is why he doesn't trust the forecast, and Ina agrees. After a moment, our boy suggests they take a picture, which surprises Ina, so Jaehyun mentions that he heard you should take pictures when you come to places like this. Since he's unsure if she's uncomfortable with it, he turns around and suggests they just take their leave if she doesn't want to. But Ina stops him and agrees to take the picture. When they step in, some guy welcomes them, referring to them as cute lovebirds. Jaehyun feels the guy looks familiar and informs him that they want to take a picture. Ina starts to blush again as she wonders if they look like a couple to other people. When the attendant tells them that they can pick out props for the picture, Ina excitedly picks out a rabbit headband, which our boy finds cringy. The worst part is that she gets another headband for him, and he has no choice but to wear it. They're both clearly uncomfortable in the first picture, but eventually get more comfortable. When they step out, Jaehyun complains that one of the pictures is broken, and the attendant apologizes because the employee he assigned must have forgotten when he told him to fix the machine. The attendant tells them they don't have to pay for the broken picture, and asks them to think of it as an empty slot for them to fill out their future together. And Ina starts to wonder if Jaehyun will be in her future. Our boy just stares at him in confusion, and in an odd tone, the man mentions that they can only ensure the future if they can protect the present. When they finally leave the shop, Jaehyun wonders what on earth that was, and he realizes the attendant was a bit concerning. But he didn't feel any mana from him. Ina watches him from behind and eventually stutters as she informs him that she lied to him. She explains that she didn't ask the other guys if they wanted to come with them, and says she was greedy because she wanted to spend time alone with him. Our boy just stands there speechless for a second, and he remembers his encounters with Hel, Nightshade, Hrungnir, Thor, Smear, and Erd. Eventually he tells Ina he's glad she had a good time. She tries to say something but hesitates. When she works up the confidence, she informs him that she has something to tell him. But an explosion suddenly occurs nearby that startles them. Immediately, an announcement is made to all the visitors of the festival that there has been a dungeon break. Several raiders are dispatched to deal with the issue, and the visitors are asked to evacuate to a safe place as the fire covers the area. Shocked, our boy realizes that this level of mana isn't coming from a dungeon. More so, the mana smells like blood, and Jaehyun wonders why. One of the raiders tells the visitors they need to run away because it's dangerous, and he tries to guide them to a safe place to run to. Ina mentions to Jaehyun that they need to get out of here, but our boy tells her they aren't, then activates his mana detection. He tells her they'll likely die either way because of that bastard that appears to be directing the people to safety. The guy directing people suddenly laughs because Jaehyun caught on quicker than he expected. He asks Jaehyun if he's the great enemy, and Jaehyun immediately tells Ina to get out of here. Before she can respond, the guy speaking with Jaehyun appears in front of Ina and attempts to punch her at breakneck speed. Regardless, our boy covers the distance since he has super speed and grabs his hand. Jaehyun asks him what he is. The guy jokes that Jaehyun isn't so impressive even if he has the title of the great enemy of the Aesir. But our boy simply asks him once more and releases a burst of mana that forces the other guy to jump backward. The guy introduces himself as one of Odin's 5 ravens and explains he was not permitted a name, but he's certain he'll receive one when he offers Jaehyun to Odin. Jaehyun becomes annoyed and recognizes that this fool is the same as the bastard who was pretending to be his father. Ina calls out to Jaehyun, so he tells her he doesn't think she'll be able to run away at this point, so he asks her to stay behind him. The raven realizes that Ina is important to Jaehyun, so he informs him that he'll make him taste despair by ripping her limb from limb so that she never gets up again. Jaehyun activates his realization of magical artifact and tells the raven that it's a shame that he's the one who's going to get ripped instead. Our boy successfully recreated the Dragon Slayer sword Balmung, and both of them dash towards each other. Before they collide, the raven tells Jaehyun that his fancy sword won't do anything to him, and they both collide with explosive force. Jaehyun hesitates for a while and thanks her for the stone. He realizes he must stay calm because this raven wants him to lose his composure, but he needs to think logically as usual. He considers what this raven's weak points can be and what could help him get out of the situation. But the raven leaps toward him to deal another attack while he's still thinking. Our boy activates his lightning chains and fires them at the raven's chain, deflecting them. The raven, however, reveals a dagger hidden up his sleeve and uses it to defend himself from the onslaught of chains. The raven persists despite the chains and leaps toward Jaehyun with the dagger in his hand. Our boy considers that he and his enemy are on a similar level when it comes to mana, but he can't afford to get too far from Ina because something might happen to her if he lets his guard down. He suddenly steps on one of the lightning chains and rides it toward the raven, taking the fight to him mid-air. However, Jaehyun gets nicked by the raven's blade, so he activates his sacrifice skill to heal himself. He realizes that his enemy is fast and he can't catch up to him easily, even though he has Steps of Light activated. Eventually, the raven admits that he heard Jaehyun has quite a few tricks, but this is more than he had imagined. The raven admits that Heimdall was right when he said Jaehyun has the potential to become an interference to the gods. The raven tells him he's going to kill him here, but our boy realizes he's bluffing because the Aesir gods cannot kill him right now since the power of the prophecy is still protecting him. He also realizes that he can use the power of the prophecy to his advantage to help him win. Jaehyun runs forward with his sword in hand, but the raven points out that such a basic attack won't work on him. The raven knows that a longsword slows down Jaehyun's attack, but Jaehyun still leaps toward him regardless, as the raven braces for his attack by putting up his chains. However, Jaehyun doesn't attack with his sword, but performs an attack using his free hand. The attack cracks the raven's mask, knocking him backward. He becomes annoyed that a mere human would dare attack him, so he runs back to retaliate in fury, but our boy blocks his dagger with his sword. After creating some distance, our boy activates his realization of magical artifact skill and replicates Nidhogg's fang. He doesn't want to use the weapon for the first time in this kind of scenario, but he seems to have no choice. After seeing the dagger, the Raven is shocked because he hadn't been told that Jaehyun uses a dagger, especially one with such a strong aura. Jaehyun wonders why the sight of his dagger caused the Raven to be so shaken, and he also notices the Raven has let his guard down. Our boy activates his lightning chains, wraps them around the monster's hand to stop him from using the chains. Using his steps of light, our boy rushes toward him and deals several attacks with his dagger. The effect of the Nidhogg's fang is soon activated, and poison damage is imbued into the enemy, which pleases Jaehyun. Eventually, the Raven breaks free of the lightning chains and becomes angry that Jaehyun is able to use the power of the Nidhogg's fang. He runs toward Jaehyun to attack, but our boy launches several lightning chains at him. However, the Raven blocks the lightning chains with his own chains. Soon after, the Raven starts to slow down, so Jaehyun points out that he seems to be having difficulty moving because of the poison, which means the tables have turned. Regardless, the Raven swears to take Jaehyun down with him, but our boy reminds him that he can't kill him anyway. The Raven clarifies that he didn't say anything about killing him, then runs past him toward Ina. Before he reaches her, Ina activates a mana barrier around herself, but the Raven breaks through it easily. Ina just stands there in shock with her defenses broken as the dagger flies toward them. Shortly after, an explosion occurs upon impact, and the Nornir system informs Jaehyun that he's successfully defeated Odin's Raven. He's also 1 point closer to completing the special quest to destroy all of Odin's ravens, and he's told he's leveled up. While Jaehyun pants, Ina emerges from the smoke and rushes toward him. He realizes he's using too much mana at once and soon collapses in her arms. With Jaehyun in her arms, Ina beats herself up for not being able to do anything again, just like during the attack when they were in the mock dungeon. In a flashback to a few hours earlier, Yoojung returns to her hostel and thinks about how she gathered all the courage to ask, but Jaehyun seems to be pretending to be busy. It really annoys her, and she considers just going to the festival with Ina. Annoyed, she eventually texts Ina and asks if she wants to go to the festival. But Ina apologizes profusely, saying she's already gone out. Yoojung is surprised because Ina rarely goes out and usually just naps in the hostel. Eventually she texts her back not to be sorry and proposes they go have dessert next time, to which Ina agrees. After a short while, Yoojung considers that it's strange that Jaehyun and Ina never go out, but they're out on the same day. It suddenly occurs to her that they may have gone out together, and she begins to recall all the times Ina had appeared flustered in Jaehyun's presence. She initially doubts they went out together, but eventually hopes they didn't. In the present, Jaehyun rests on Ina's body due to exhaustion. Ina recalls how she wasn't of any help when he was in danger during the dungeon exam, even though Jaehyun worked so hard to protect her. She also wonders who the person who attacked them was and notes that Jaehyun seems to know him. Apart from that, this person has a similar mana to what they detected in the mock dungeon, so she wonders if there's a connection. Eventually, she hesitantly touches his head, and our boy wakes up. When he looks up, their faces end up inches away from each other, which makes Ina completely flustered. Our boy only smirks and thanks her for letting him rest on her shoulder. After a short pause, our boy tells Ina he thinks he knows what she was going to tell him before they were interrupted. He admits he might be wrong and asks her to hear him out because there's something he has to tell her. Before he can complete his statement, Ina places a finger on his mouth and begs him not to say anything anymore because she's not ready to listen to his response yet, no matter what his reply may be. She says she needs some time and says she can wait for him to be done with whatever he needs to do. As tears pour down her face, she suggests that they talk about it later. Our boy doesn't seem so happy about it, so he places a hand on her face to wipe off her tears. Sometime later, Jaehyun fights with a group of ogres in the training room. He avoids their attacks and fires several lightning chains at them. While he's fighting, he wonders why he wasn't able to reply to Ina. He already knew that she liked him, so he wonders why he acted the way he did. He also realizes how torturous it would be for her if he were to give her false hope. Because he's distracted by his thoughts, one of the ogres takes advantage and tries to smash his skull in, but our boy dodges the attack. The Nornir system informs Jaehyun that his level has gone up as an effect of quest progression increase. As Jaehyun blasts the ogre away with a wind attack, the system informs him that he can now feel the wall that has been restricting him. Our boy isn't certain what that's supposed to mean, and Hila soon appears by his side to inform him that he will understand it soon. She walks towards him and tells him he can do it, and Jaehyun jokingly asks her why she's being so nice all of a sudden, which makes him think that she's leaving him forever. Jaehyun tells her he's not falling for her trick, and she visibly acts nonchalant, but deep inside, she wishes that Jaehyun has no value for her existence in the future, because she knows what will happen. Sometime later, our boy is approached by Hyun. When Hyun introduces himself as the leader of the circle called Guardian, Jaehyun remembers he's heard of the circle before, which is the most powerful circle in the academy when it comes to martial arts. He's impressed that Hyun is the leader, but he still feels he's weak. Hyun tries to tell Jaehyun that he has a good offer to recruit him into the Guardian circle, but he's soon interrupted by Jiyeon, who protests that Hyun can't just scout Jaehyun like that because Jaehyun is going to join her circle. Shortly after, Joohyub appears too and tells her to cut the crap because the Garam circle is going to take Jaehyun. Eventually, Jaehyun tells the leaders to stop it because everyone is watching. As he's about to say something else, Jiyoon, the leader of the fourth top circle, steps in and introduces herself to Jaehyun as the leader of the third eye circle. Our boy is surprised to see her because he's heard of the names of the other guys in his past life. But he doesn't know this woman. Jiyoon informs our boy that she didn't come to scout him and just came to introduce herself, but Jaehyun tells her she should have come to find him when it was less chaotic. Oddly, Jiyoon states that it would have been dangerous if she did that. Shortly after, the top students begin arguing again, but Jaehyun makes it clear to them that he doesn't intend on joining any circle. Surprised, Hyun asks him what he's going to do. He admits that he knows Jaehyun is the disciple of Yoo Seong-in, but reminds him that raiders with no experience in circles will have a very low starting rank, which will be a pain. To clarify, our boy explains that he didn't say he's not going to join a circle. Now pissed off, Joohyub grabs our boy's shirt and asks him what the heck he's talking about, but our boy suddenly releases a great deal of aura, and frankly tells Joohyub it'd be better for the both of them if he doesn't cross the line like this. Surprised, Joohyub unhands him, so Jaehyun states that he's going to make his own circle. Sometime later, the leaders gather for another meeting, and Joohyub wonders if Jaehyun has gone insane because it doesn't make sense for a first year to make a circle. Hyun agrees that he doesn't understand it, but he also admits that there are no rules against it in the academy rules, although he also knows it's close to impossible, realistically speaking, because there's a lot involved in managing a circle, and it'd be impossible to be successful without a senior student or teacher to help. However, the only problem is that Jaehyun might actually be able to create one because the most important things needed to create a circle are connections, a faction within the academy, and money, considering Jaehyun's friends, who are all very skilled and popular people. It seems clear to the top students why Jaehyun would never need them from the start. Joohyub laments that this is going to be a mess, and Hyun proposes they change their plans. Since Jaehyun can destroy the balance of the academy with just the help of his friends, Hyun suggests that they think of a way to survive, and he offers his circle's help. While Hyun passes through the hallway, he remembers how Jaehyun threatened Joohyub to let go of his shirt, and he realizes they have a massive problem to deal with, which is the second time after Chae Ji-yoon, the present leader of Third Eye. Sometime later, Yoojung expresses shock when she learns that our boy wants to create a circle after he gathers them to break the news. He explains that he doesn't think they need to join an existing one and be forced under the senior students. But Hoyeon reminds him they're first years, and it'll be bad if other circles try to sabotage them. Jae-sung also finds the thought of fighting other students scary, and Soil asks Jae-hyun if this will get her money. Eventually, Jae-hyun assures them that they only need to get strong enough so that the other circles can't do anything about them. After a short pause around the table, Ina mentions that she's fine either way, and Jae-sung agrees to go along if Jae-hyun thinks it's a good idea. Stunned that Jae-hyun ignored her, Soil asks again if they're going to make lots of money because they're all going to starve to death if they don't get points. With the points given to the top students for each grade and what our boy got for being scouted by Lotus, he assures them that he has at least a few 100,000 points. It surprises Soil, who calls him a psycho, but Yoojung is surprised he's that rich and never treated them to food. Because of that, Seo declares that they're eating out tonight, so Jaehyun asks her why she would be a part of them eating out. She reminds him that she's going to be at this academy next year too, and she won't be able to go to any other circle because of the skill he has on her. Jaehyun immediately uses his subordination skill to make her stop talking about his subordination, and he makes her say that she thought it would be easy to scam the members here since they're all stupid idiots. She's shocked by the words that come out of her mouth, and those at the table are equally surprised, which makes Seo annoyed at Jaehyun. However, Jaehyun reminds the guys that they're all talented, and if they can create a circle to nurture their talents, they'll be able to easily surpass the wall they're facing now. Hoyeon immediately pledges loyalty to Jaehyun, and so does Ina, who intends to be strong enough to be the one who saves Jaehyun if they're ever in trouble next time. Meanwhile, Yoojung whispers to Soil that she has a bad feeling about this and asks what she thinks. Soil agrees that Jaehyun smiling like this always brings her bad luck, but when our boy turns to them with deadly eyes, they keep quiet. Jaehyun tells them they'll have to work hard to get stronger, and rhetorically asks them if they will join his circle, with little choice in the matter. Sometime later, the gang goes to the Mills Academy training facility, a fitness facility in the academy that has various equipment and top-tier artifacts. Only the top students and their friends are allowed to enter. Yoojung, who is exhausted from working out, calls Jaehyun a son of a B-word, while Seo lays breathless next to her. Hoyeon suggests they call it a day because it feels like his muscles have been ripped to shreds, but our boy insists that's how they get stronger. Jae-sung is tasked with the job of passing healing potions around, and Soyeol accuses him of being a traitor, but he reminds her that he's not a battle-type cadet. Jaehyun gives them all 2 more sets and considers how this gym is special, because the gravity in this place is amplified in order to help the students get stronger. Nearby, Ina keeps pushing the weights, and Jaehyun looks at her. He recalls the incident with the Raven and worries that something like that could happen again, so he decides that the only thing he can do is help his friends get stronger in the shortest time possible, so that they won't become a burden to him and can escape when the time comes. After that, our boy heads to the Lotus Guild to see his teacher, and she eventually asks him if he's going to join a different guild. Jaehyun asks her what she means, so she comes clean that she knows the curator approached him and offered to give him Nidhogg's fang. Eventually, our boy agrees he's been found out and asks her if she'd let him go if he says he wants to go. Seongun says she never will, especially not to the curator guild. Jaehyun asks why she asked if that's the case, so she says it's to tell him that she will never let anyone take him away from them, and she won't let a rival take her disciple away from her. She gets up and pulls his face closer to hers, then reminds him that he also has no reason to give up the privilege he has now either, even for an S-rank artifact. She admits that it's hard to say it'd make up for an S-rank artifact, but she grants him every favor he asks her, so she doesn't believe he's losing any from being with her. Our boy agrees and confesses that he wasn't planning to leave because there's nowhere to go when she's here. Seongun jokingly accuses him of being a good liar and states she almost fell for his lie, but Jaehyun jokingly says that's a shame. Shortly after, our boy recalls that Heimdall will attack him in the outdoor camping event, and he needs to prepare himself for every possible scenario. On the day of the outdoor camp, the students are transported to the area for the event. While on the bus, Jaehyun tells his friends to be good because this is the event that will start their circle off. Hoyeon excitedly agrees, but Soyeol smacks Jae-sung and tells him to stop shaking. But he tells her he's scared because this feels like the real deal. Jaehyun agrees with him that they'll be fighting real monsters now, but he adds that the other raiders stopped by and took care of most of the monsters already. However, that doesn't mean this won't still be dangerous. Ina soon asks Jaehyun why he chose the name 9 for their circle, and she asks him if he likes the number. Our boy admits that he technically hates the number 9 because, in Norse mythology, the number 9 is a very symbolic number. He explains that he picked the number 9 because he hates it the most, and that confuses Ina and Yoojung further. They soon reach the entrance to the abandoned city where they will be camping, and Jaehyun tells the others that they're no longer safe, so he reminds them to stay on their toes. Deep within the abandoned city, Daegu, Hugin goes to inform Heimdall that one of the ravens has died, and Heimdall finds that interesting. Sometime later, on a show known as the World Raider Issue, a host invites some guests to discuss the incident that occurred in the Great Ruins of Iceland. She welcomes Balak and the first ever S-rank mage in the world, Camilla. Balak looks as angry as usual, but Camilla seems delighted to be on the show. Camilla tries to nudge Balak to behave because they're there as the faces of the European Union, but he tells her that it's clear from the eyes of the bastards staring at them that they don't respect them. Camilla agrees the audience looks sketchy, but she still advises him not to act so prickly either. Balak considers that these people think that the European Union is the one behind the ruins robbery, and it makes sense since they were the ones with the rights over the ruins when the incident happened. The host soon announces that the topic to be discussed today is the recent robbery of Iceland's Great Ruins, and Balak becomes agitated, but Camilla nudges him to calm down. Going further, the host asks why 2 S-rank raiders couldn't guard the ruins, and why the European Union couldn't get through the ruins first when they're said to be the strongest in the world. She states that these 2 points are what people are talking about and asks for their thoughts on the matter. Eventually, Camilla admits that they weren't skilled enough and doesn't say more. The host soon asks what went wrong since they were so confident that they would be able to succeed in the raid after gaining the rights to the ruins, and Balak answers this time. He asks the host if she heard of the invader, and she smugly states that they're the person who is said to have passed the proof of qualification, that the Union failed and raided the ruins. However, she states that people want the truth, and this annoys Balak, who asks her if she's implying that he's lying. When his expression changes, the host becomes afraid, but Camilla chides Balak to stop messing around. Regardless, Balak walks to the camera and tells the whole world to listen closely. He explains that the invader, whom they nicknamed the Black Robe, was strong enough to the point that he still won even when he and Camilla attacked him together. Instead of trying to rip them apart for their failures, he tells them to do something about the invader instead, who he knows for a fact will appear again. Meanwhile, in the outdoor event, An instructor tells the students that this event will influence what their life in mills will be like going forward. He explains that this field trip will go on for a week, and they must cooperate with the members of their circle, but they will only get the survival kits that are being distributed to each circle. They're to hunt down monsters with what they've learned, but they're not allowed to leave the 50-kilometer radius of the base so as not to get disqualified. The instructor adds that their first task is to survive to prove that they possess the potential to be a great raider. And the second task is to hunt as many monsters as they can within the time limit and bring back the tokens they drop. The higher the monster's rank is, the more points they'll get, but they're warned not to be so careless that they get injured during hunting. In the case of an emergency, they're told not to worry because there is an instructor nearby at all times. The instructor tells them not to hide an emergency, but to go to the instructor instead. Once the announcement is done, they're all given rings, which is a symbol of solidarity, and our boy tells his circle members to move according to the plan. While they move around, Hugin watches them from nearby and states that it has begun. Shortly after, they find a good place to use as a base, and Jae-sung believes they will be able to avoid winged high-ranking monsters there. However, Soil mentions that there might be bugs in the place, and she doesn't like this kind of atmosphere. Jae-sung tries to advise her not to hate on the bugs too much, but Soil tells him to shut up because bugs are the worst. They start fighting again, and Jae-sung retreats behind Jae-hyun. Our boy eventually stops them and tells them to stay alert. They're in a city that has been locked down and sealed off due to the invasion of monsters. However, Yoo-jung hopes they rack up a bunch of points again so that they'll be able to get so much ice cream and visit the restaurant they wanted to visit. While she's raving about food, she notices that Jae-hyun doesn't look as excited as she is, which makes her keep quiet. Our boy eventually stops them and tells them to stay alert. They're in a city that has been locked down and sealed off due to the invasion of monsters. However, Yoo-jung hopes they rack up a bunch of points again so that they'll be able to get so much ice cream and visit the restaurant they wanted to visit. While she's raving about food, she notices that Jae-hyun doesn't look as excited as she is, which makes her keep quiet. Our boy is thinking about how the event isn't much of a hassle to some of the others, especially for them since they're at the top of the new students. However, the most dangerous enemy they'll face here is Heimdall, so our boy decides to keep his head in the game because he's certain Heimdall is coming. Ina also notices he's preoccupied, but he tells her he's fine when she asks. Suddenly, Hoyeon asks Ina and Jaehyun what's wrong with them because they seem a bit awkward, like they had a fight before this. He asks if something happened over the weekend, but Ina blankly asks him what he means and reveals nothing. Soil soon signals them that some people are coming towards them, and Jaehyun jokes that they're probably folks that don't like them and have come here for Soil. Soil agrees and reminds Jaehyun that he had promised to take responsibility for her, so she reminds him to keep his word. Ina and Yoo-jung are shocked by the mention of Jaehyun taking responsibility for her, and wonder what that means. Our boy tells the others to prepare for battle, and they're soon ambushed by a circle called Seed. Jaehyun had been expecting them because Soil is from the Seed circle, and he had asked her to leave her circle to join his. Soil had protested that they're still newbies, even though she knows that Jaehyun is talented. She explained that she's pretty satisfied with Seed, which has more people and potential to give her more points than in a new circle. However, Jaehyun told her she's not seeing the bigger picture, and asked if she considers the members of Seed her friends. She explained that they're more like business partners. But Jaehyun suddenly brought out a magical item called a record sphere, to play voice recordings of her circle members talking badly about Soil, stating that she can't fight properly, and she's just there to make the leaders shine brighter. They even start to call dibs on flirting with her to see who can get her first, and the recording makes Soil furious. Regardless, Soil asked Jaehyun how much he's going to pay her, and he told her that depends on how she performs. In the present, the leader of the Seed Circle, Ju-shang, asks Jaehyun if he really thought he could survive after stealing their member. But Jaehyun asks him if he's forgotten how he got beat up at the freshman hunt. Ju-shang claims that he only let his guard down, and reminds him he can't win against all of them on his own. Jaehyun creates a ball of light to illuminate the area, and he tells Ju-shang he's not alone. He also makes it clear that even if they come at them all at once, they won't be able to defeat any one of them. Jaehyun recognizes that Soil is one of the most talented people possessing scout abilities, and he knew getting her onto their team would come with much risk, but he still considers it nothing. After a moment of hesitation, Ju-shang tells our boy that he might be strong, but he's still a newbie. Ju-shang orders his men to kill our boy, so they rush at him with their swords, but he doesn't move an inch. Suddenly, Hoyeon activates his skill called Impervious Defense, which increases his defense power and blocks the warriors. The mage-type members of the Seed Circle immediately attempt to use fire and lightning magic, but Yoo-jung activates her air shield to protect them from the onslaught of the fire and lightning. Our boy is impressed, and he's glad he trained these guys to their bone, so much that Yoo-jung has already learned a wide-range defense spell, After their attacks, the members of the Seed Circle are surprised that their attacks didn't deal any damage at all. One of them begins to lament that he knew this would happen, and he asks why Jushang had even decided to do something to the Lotus Guildmaster's disciple, even if it's a new circle. Ina soon steps on the scene and asks Jaehyun if she should attack them all. Our boy gladly tells her to spare no one, so she activates her Sword of Alzheimer skill and launches the swords at them. Extremely scared, they try to run away, but they're soon pierced in the back with the swords. Jushang avoids the swords, but he slips over a blue gooey substance that sticks him to the ground. Jaehyun commends the effectiveness of the liquid because the Seed Circle members can't move after being stuck on it. So Jaesong explains that he mixed slime with paralysis mushroom spores to make it. While he's talking, Jushang insults Jaesong by calling him a stuttering F-word, but Jaehyun tells him to watch his mouth. He asks Jushang if he has any idea how much pain he can put him through before he dies, then steps on his spine. Eventually, he lets the rest of Jushang's teammates go, but keeps Jushang. Jushang pleads with his circle to wait for him, but they only call him a crazy bastard and ask why they should wait for him. After they leave, Jaehyun tells Soil that he's made up his mind to make Jushang fail this event. Soil calls Jushang a piece of crap, but Jushang tries to convince her that he did all of this for her. She tells him to cut the crap and reminds him how he called her a parasite that has no other use than as a scout. She soon brings out her knife and cuts up Jushang until he's taken out. Shortly after, an instructor shows up, and he's shocked to learn that the 9 Circle took out the guys from the Seed Circle. Jushang and the guys taken out by Ina's sword lay unconscious on the ground, and the instructor wonders how an upper-middle circle with a lot of members was taken out by this circle of newbies. Jaehyun asks the instructor to make sure the guys don't kick the bucket because they don't deserve to die this early, and the instructor asks him to try to prevent future fights with senior classes before he leaves. When the instructor leaves, our boy turns to Suyuk, who has been standing nearby, and he asks him why he helped him. A while back, Suyuk had approached Jaehyun to inform him that the entirety of the Seed Circle is after them. Jaehyun told him it doesn't matter since the Seed Circle are idiots, so Suyuk decided to leave. Unsure why he's even siding with Jaehyun in the first place. While heading out, Jaehyun advised him to make an exit out of this event since he's playing solo, and when Suyuk decided to stay around the area, Jaehyun mentions that he didn't expect him to help him since he thought he was only good at starting fights. In the present, Jaehyun asks Suyuk what his name is again, and the other ladies are surprised to learn he's called Suyuk. It annoys him because he expects these fools to have remembered his name by now. Earlier, in a meeting of the Seed Circle, Suyuk disagrees with the idea of ganging up against Min Jaehyun, especially since Soyul left on her own. Suyuk suggests they make a better offer, but Jushang insists that he wants Jaehyun to become an obedient junior. Suyuk wonders when Milas became so political, and why they'd even attempt to beat someone up just because they don't like them. He considers it insane and decides he needs to leave the Seed Circle. In the present, Suyuk leaves Jaehyun's group, but before he goes, he warns our boy that he'll get revenge the next time he sees him, so he better be prepared. After he leaves, Jaehyun proposes they get right to work. Soil protests that they just had a fight. But when our boy starts his talk about how great power brings great responsibility, she asks him what he's going to give her in return. By the way, the reason Meals Academy chose Daegu as its location despite it being locked down is that they wanted to reclaim the sealed-off city. Daegu is where the first ever gate in the world opened and also the first city to fall after the appearance of Yggdrasil. As such, the purpose of Meals' camping field trip is to prepare for the reconstruction of the area. Jaehyun recalls that the disaster at the Daegu gate was a calamity because his mom was there too. Ina soon calls Jaehyun out of his thinking to inform him that dinner is ready. She mentions that he looks like he has a lot on his mind and asks if it's because of the unique skill he told her about. He tells her it's something like that. Our boy recalls how Hila told him he would never be able to defeat Heimdall as he is now, but she has a chance if he awakens his unique skill and transcends his limits. Apparently, a unique skill manifests through the user's will, and Hila mentioned that he'll have to think about what he truly wants and why he needs that power. He wonders how he's supposed to understand what she meant, and Ina confesses that she may not get it either, but she's certain he can do it. Because she's trying to help out, Jaehyun assures her he'll do his best. Sometime later, Hoyeon cuts up a worm-like monster somewhere else in the area. After he takes down the worm, a bird-like monster attacks Soil, and she defends herself with her blade. After she takes down the monster, Yujung notes that this place is so different from Mila's. Ina agrees that the difference in the amount of mana in the air is pretty significant, and it feels worse than the 10th level of the mana room test. They're in a place called a field, a term for areas taken over by monsters due to a dungeon outbreak, where corrupt energy seeps through and causes even more dangerous monsters to appear. Soil doesn't know what a field is, and when Jaesong teases her for never paying attention in class, she attempts to murder him. Jaehyun explains that a field is a place abundant in mana but unfit for human sustenance. They can handle it as raiders, But ordinary people are at risk when exposed to even a little mana. He reminds everyone to be careful because anything could happen here, and when a huge monster appears before them, Soil asks him if he's really going to kill it. He assures her that he will but reminds her to do her job as the team's scout. She asks him to promise to help her run away if something happens because she doesn't want to die early, and Jaehyun only smiles at her. She soon calls him a piece of crap for not promising her directly. So our boy suggests she stay back and let them look on their own. Even though it will take more time and give them fewer points since they'll find weaker monsters, Soil calls him master and tells him he has the final say here. While they're looking through the area, Yujung finds it amazing that so much of this sealed-off area has been reclaimed, and she guesses it's thanks to a well-known person. Ina doesn't know who the person is, so Soil teases her for also not listening in class, and then proposes they become friends. Hoyeon points out that Yujung was referring to the first awakened, Ju-won, and Jae-sung mentions that even his father said Ju-won is someone he wouldn't be able to defeat. Daegu is where the first gate opened, and monsters spread, while endless screams of agony echoed through the air and humans were crushed like ants. A human with special powers appeared. Ju-won, the first awakened of Korea. As Jaehyun takes out the formidable monster Soil was scared of, he thinks about how Ju-won became famous worldwide, and how no one like him has appeared since, but he suddenly disappeared shortly after. When he takes out the monster, Yujung tells Jaehyun she knows he chose this path because of Ju-won. Ju-won's disappearance was so abrupt that people assumed he died to monsters, and he was also the first person to use the power of the Asir system. Our boy wonders what kind of person Ju-won was and how he was able to use this power before everybody else. Shortly after, Jae-sung, Soil and Hoyeon set up a tent for them to stay in. Ina soon returns, and our boy informs her that there are harpies, worms and goblins as Soil had said. He says she's really good, and Soil points out that she has to be because he would have abandoned her here if she was wrong. Our boy asks her how she knew he would have abandoned her, and when she attempts to insult him, he reminds her of her payment, so she reverts to calling him master again. While Hoyeon and Jae-sung talk about Soil's impressive skills, Jae-sung says something, and Soil intimidates him again, reminding them not to talk about her because only Jaehyun is paying her. Jaehyun asks where Yujung is, so Hoyeon replies that she said she was going to prepare something. When she shows up, Jaehyun asks her where she's been, and he's surprised to see an eerie-looking pot in her hands. Their faces immediately turn pale as Yujung praises herself for the pain she went through to prepare this. When they bring out the ominous-looking substance in the pot, our boy asks if this is supposed to be food, so Yujung proudly says she added a special sauce to the worm they caught. Our boy can't believe she wants them to eat this, but she insists because she put so much effort into it. The only idea Jaehyun has about how to handle this is probably to feed Heimdall this to kill him easily. Meanwhile, June meets up with Ju-won somehow, and she asks him when he plans to act again. He tells her he doesn't know, but he guesses it's about time because the great adversary is already on the move. Ji-yoon replies that the great adversary is still very young, but he's proving more and more that the prophecy isn't false, so she tells Ju-won that they need his help. He replies that Heimdall is already on the move, so he doesn't see the need to do anything, but he states that he'll take action if necessary. It occurs to Ju-won that things are about to get interesting. At the field event, Jaehyun laments that this food could kill them, but Yujung insists the food isn't that bad. She turns to Jae-sung to get support, but he agrees with Jaehyun, and Hoyeon also says he isn't hungry. Yujung laments that they're all so mean, so she turns to Soil to get comfort and hopes she'll eat her food, but Soil looks over Yujung's shoulders and notices the other guys furiously signaling to her not to. Although she is grossed out, she can't fight back Yujung's puppy face, so she agrees to eat the food since it's made out of edible things. Soil scoops some of it in a spoon and says it's not a big deal, but she soon ends up puking her guts on a nearby fence. Some of the others tease her that she sounds like a monster in pain, and Jaehyun reminds her that she should have listened to them. Annoyed, Soil protests that there was no way for her to say no when Yujung seems so hurt, so Jaehyun gives her something to help with the pain and points out that she's softer than she looks. After that, Soil asks if something happened between him and Ina, which surprises Jaehyun. She clarifies that it's clear that something is off, and she asks him not to be too hard on Ina as well as everyone else, so Jaehyun agrees. Eventually, our boy points out that he wouldn't expect someone like her to say that, which annoys her further, and then he reminds her that they promised to take some person down. Soil remembers but asks for some time to let her stomach feel a bit better. Jaehyun asks her if they should try to see if Yujung's food can poison the monsters. But when she starts vomiting again, our boy realizes it might take a while for her to feel better. He suddenly hears a loud cry, and he tells Soil to follow him inside because those they're expecting are here already. They run towards the others, and Jaehyun tells them to form the A formation because B-rank monster harpies are approaching. He asks Jae-sung to prepare the light-up paralysis traps. Put Hoyeon on forward, Yujung on support, and Ina on attack. After their fight to protect their base, they head back. And Hoyan laments that he didn't expect there to be dozens of harpies. He hadn't expected them to go around in such large groups. And Yujung agrees that they're mostly in groups of 4 at most, which means this was a special case. A special case would mean that a boss monster with very overwhelming amounts of mana is ordering them around, which must mean a creature known as the Harpy Queen is nearby. Soil had detected this, but hadn't expected that the queen would be this close. Jaehyun asks them to stay back and protect this place until he and Soil get rid of the monster and return. With Soil's unique skill, it shouldn't be an issue to track down the queen, and our boy assures them he can take care of the monsters on his own too, so there's no need to worry. Hoyan reminds him they're supposed to move together because of unexpected situations, but our boy says there's no need for that, because they'll probably end up hurt, even if they were to tag along, or he'd have to watch out for them. When they look sad, he explains that it's not that he doesn't trust them, but they're needed at the base, and they can always jump in to support the instructors if there's a need to. Eventually, Ina and Yujung reluctantly agree, and Jae-sun gives Jaehyun a truckload of potions to keep him safe. He and Soo-hyuk soon head out, and our boy tells them to stay safe. Yujung, who still looks angry, tells him to get in touch if he needs them. But he teases her that it's rare for her to show that she cares. While he's still talking, several harpies storm the tent, and our boy activates his lightning chains to strike them mid-flight without even turning around. He assures the others that there's no need to worry because he only gets into fights he knows he'd win. Shortly after, while Jaehyun and Soil move around to find the Harpy Queen, Soil tells our boy that his group contains solid people, and it's no wonder why they're at the top of the class, even with how competitive Mila's is. She's saying this because of how they just handled the harpies. In a flashback, several other harpies ambush them, and Soil gets her knife to get into action, but Jaehyun blocks her from doing anything. Hoyan tells Ina and Yujung that he'll take the front, and he asks them to focus on casting spells. As some of the harpies attack from the front, Hoyan blocks with the shield and cuts them in half. With the level of skill Hoyan displayed, Soil is certain that he's reached A rank at this point. And the same goes for the other guys. In the flashback, Yujung activates a skill called Overflow, which increases the attack power of the party members by 1.3 times. As one of the harpies targets her, she uses a skill called Wind Edge to cover up the monster, as well as 2 others. Jaehyun realizes that Yujung is able to cast spells faster now, and he also notices Ina pierce almost a dozen harpies around the same time, which really pleases him. Back in the present, Jaehyun gloats that he's still the strongest, and Soil tells him he's annoying. When Soil calls him a genius, our boy reasons that he never expected that word to be used for him, especially when he recalls his past life where his other teammates had used him as a meat shield on the front lines. Jaehyun congratulates Soil for a good job of finding her path and not passing out from Yujung's food. As they move closer, Jaehyun warns her to be careful not to get killed in this mission, and she starts to lament that she's too young to die. Regardless, they move in deeper, and the Nornir system informs Jaehyun that he has come across the boss monster of Region 1 of the lockdown city field. They soon run into the Queen Harpy, which excites Jaehyun but scares Soil. The boss monster is A+ rank, but Jaehyun is certain he can get a certain artifact if he defeats it, which is a pretty good deal. As Jaehyun approaches the monster, Soil wonders if he's out of his mind, but our boy activates his realization of magical artifact. He soon recreates Nidhogg's Fang again, and Soil realizes that's the item that sold for an insane price at the auction recently. The Harpy Queen immediately fires an attack with her feathers, and Soil frantically jumps out of the way. Our boy soon rushes towards the monster, but he knows the monster is still dangerous even though it's weaker than he is. He keeps dodging her attacks until he gets up close because the monster can fly and because it's stronger than before his regression. Soon after, he activates several lightning chains, and he realizes that an A+ rank monster wasn't this powerful in his past life, which could only mean that someone has intervened. He soon jumps towards the monster to slash it with his knife, and he hopes the real perpetrator, Heimdall, comes out instead of playing tricks from the shadows. While this is going on, Hugin watches from somewhere, and he says that his prediction is correct, and something is imminent. But he's worried about whether Heimdall will be able to do his job properly. Not long after, our boy successfully defeats the Harpy Queen, the boss of Lockdown City's first region, and his reward is put in the nest of the Harpy Queen. Jaehyun is glad that he's finally got the item called Tempest Wings, but when he turns to Soil, who is finding it hard to keep up, she states that Yujung is right, that our boy is out of his mind. Eventually, our boy finds the Harpy Queen's nest and gets the rank S Tempest Wing item that gives Jaehyun the skill called Mid-Air Leap, more agility, and more strength. The Mid-Air Leap is an A+ rank skill that creates a fake wall of wind, while the user is in mid-air to give another chance to jump and can be used twice in a row. Suddenly, they notice a pair of gloves on the ground, and when they check it out, it turns out to be something called Drigon gloves. and the system tells them it's updating the information on the first ever awakened in the Nornir system. Sometime later, after fighting a few more harpies, Hoyeon mentions that they seem to be pretty close to the top record set, which means they're pretty awesome, and Yoojung agrees that it's expected since she's there with him. Jaehyun, who is standing nearby, recalls that he gained information on Ju-won, the first to ever awaken in the entire world, and he wonders why the Nornir system is updating information on him. It occurs to him that he probably has something to do with the system, and he knows that he needs to find out why those gloves were there. Shortly after, Yoojung exclaims because she left behind her imbued necklace, which is a bad thing. While she's crying, Jaehyun hands her the same necklace, so she asks him how he knows she left it behind and states it's creepy. Our boy informs her that forgetting things is her habit. Besides, her mom told him to take care of her. Jaehyun soon tells Yoojung to grow up and stop forgetting things, but Yoojung protests that he needs to stop lecturing her. They get into another argument again, and Hoyeon asks them if they're dating. Jaehyun denies it, and Yoojung asks Hoyeon if he wants to die. Oddly, Ina touches Hoyeon with a dangerous look on her face and tells him to let it go since they've already denied it. Meanwhile, in Valhalla, the great palace of Aesir, also called the Great House of Warriors and the House of Joy, the Aesir gods gather for a feast. Thor enjoys the celebration because the preparations for the war are going smoothly, and Heimdall said he'll get rid of the great adversary. He believes that the Aesir will become the masters of the 9 realms, and the great Odin will be pleased. Another god, Tyr, calls Thor an insincere bastard for holding a banquet while Odin is gone, and he asks Thor if Ragnarok means nothing to him. Thor can't believe he's bringing this up, and soon reminds Tyr how Fenrir ate his right arm during Ragnarok. Tyr equally reminds Thor of the piece of coal stuck in his forehead by a vile giant, and states that he would have killed himself if he were the one. Annoyed, Thor proposes they fight to see which of them is stronger, but Freya tells them to stop if they don't want to be put on probation. Shortly after, Frigg states that Valhalla's forces have decreased quite a bit, and their soul collecting isn't going too well. Freya interrupts her by saying it's because Ragnarok pushed it too hard, and it's clearly Odin's mistake. Annoyed, Frigg corrects her for saying such things about the master of Asgard, but Freya explains that she does not intend to kiss Odin's boots. He may have power, but in her eyes he's nothing but garbage. When Frigg asks her how she can dare say that, Freya becomes hostile and reminds Frigg of what Odin did to her. Freya eventually makes an announcement that the preparations for the second end are all complete. Einherjar, the souls of the dead ready to fight for Asgard, are already set. In the field event, Jaehyun realizes that Heimdall will show himself soon, since he intervened in the matter of the Harpy Queen, and he knows he has to awaken his inherent skill as soon as he can. He recalls the conversation he had with his teacher. She joked that he's greedy because he's already strong as is but now wants an inherent skill too. In the flashback, she explains that she doesn't think she can be of much help with this, because her own case was rather sudden. Apparently, there was despair on the day when a gate opened in the middle of the road and people started dropping like flies. In the midst of the chaos, there was one child running for her life, and Seongan felt helpless. She ran to help the child, but she couldn't save her despite being awakened because she was just too weak. However, right after the child died, she earned a new skill called sacrifice, but she couldn't bring back someone who had already died. She adds that she really doesn't know how to learn an inherent skill as fast as possible the way he wants, but she counsels him not to rush himself because she doesn't want him to lose anything he holds precious in the process of gaining an inherent skill. In the present, our boy wonders if Ina might know how to awaken an inherent skill, so he asks her how she earned her inherent skill so he doesn't lose what's important to him. After hearing his question, she confesses that she earned her inherent skill because of the death of her family. To be exact, she let them die, and she confesses that she still thinks it's a good thing they died. Apparently, when she was 5, she lost her parents and was left alone. After that, she and her grandmother went to live with her aunt. Although she didn't have parents, she never felt alone after moving in, not even when her aunt was mean to her, because she still had her grandmother, who was now her only family. However, that happiness didn't last for long, because she overheard a conversation where her grandmother told her aunt that she doesn't have much time left, and asked her to take care of Ina even when she's not here. She knew that her only family and the one person who she could depend on was about to leave her. Dark clouds loomed over her from then on. Although she wasn't a child that spoke much, that experience made her completely shut off from everyone else. Her life stayed the same until a year of middle school when her aunt said she got a call from her class teacher that raiders make a lot of money. Her aunt quipped that even people like her have some use in the world, and she never knew Ina was talented. Her aunt reminded her that they spent much money raising her, and she'd have to pay them back for it, so her aunt told her she had no choice but to become a raider if she wanted to be worth anything. Ina hated her because she had already taken the life insurance money from her parents' death, and now she was trying to use her for her own gain as well. She hated how her aunt had treated both her parents and her grandmother like a burden she wanted to get rid of. What disgusted her the most was the fact that she couldn't say anything to defend herself. After that, she applied for a raider program because her teacher had told her she was fit to become one. When she submitted her application, her teacher asked her if she was sure because even though she was a perfect candidate, and people treated raiders with high regard, that wasn't the case for mages. Her teacher explained that she didn't want her doing dangerous things. But Ina insisted because she knew better than anyone that some things were worse than death. When she got home, her grandma asked her if she was sure about becoming a raider. Ina realized that her grandma would leave her too eventually, but she could never bring herself to hate her. However, she decided that all that was happening was fate, and it couldn't be stopped no matter how hard she struggled. She suddenly burst into tears and told her grandma that she was fine, but her grandma told her she didn't have to do it if she didn't feel like it because she didn't want her granddaughter to get hurt. After choosing to become a raider, her life changed completely. She learned how to handle mana and how to kill monsters, and her cold personality helped her a lot. When she had gotten used to this life, the unavoidable happened, and her grandmother passed away. Apparently, she wouldn't have passed away if she had received treatment. But Ina was shocked to find out that she had refused treatment. She wondered if her grandmother gave up on life, and she wondered if her grandmother abandoned her too. She couldn't be sure of anything, but all she knew was that she missed her, and she fell into despair. She wondered if her grandmother left her because she was stupid, and she hoped that she would have taken her along. Shortly after, her aunt called her to say that the sponsor contract had been signed and the guild was going to take her. So she just needed to come sign the papers. The fact that her aunt was still controlling her life made Ina angry, and for the first time ever she yelled at her aunt. When her aunt protested that she should be grateful that she didn't sell her off, she decided to run away from home. She waited until dawn to go back home to get her stuff. But when she got home, she found her aunt's house burning and the monsters spilling out of the open gate. Her aunt called to her from amidst the rubble and asked her to help. And Ina's only thought at the time was why she should help the woman who took everything from her. Eventually, when Ina began to tear up, our boy told her she didn't have to push herself if it was too hard to remember. Meanwhile, Yujung heard something and assumed Jaehyun was back, but she was surprised to see Heimdall towering over her. The level of mana this strange person was giving out was more like that of a monster's. Shortly after, Heimdall came down to speak to the others and asked them if they were the great adversary's friends. They all stared at him. And when Yujung asked him what he was talking about, he released an explosive amount of mana again that made them stagger. When they fell to the ground, he told them to answer his questions. Soil tried to use telepathy to signal Jaehyun to come back immediately because there was an enemy who seemed to have the mana of a monster. But Heimdall approached her and lifted her by her throat when he detected what she was doing. He told them all that they were going to die here, and he prepared an attack in his other hand. He told them to blame the great adversary for this. But Jaehyun soon showed up and told him he wouldn't let him do anything. Our boy activated his absolute calculation skill and deactivated Heimdall's attack. Meanwhile, while one instructor was lamenting to his counterpart about having to babysit the students after already clearing the monsters in the event area, they noticed a huge purple mana cloud that startled them. Before they knew what was going on, a huge monster appeared behind them and gobbled up the guy that was lamenting, immediately giving the other guy PTSD. Before he could reach for his walkie-talkie, the monster impaled him with its scorpion-like tail, but he managed to inform the others that there was danger before the monster completely drained the life out of him. Ridiculously huge monsters suddenly filled up the whole place, and things didn't look good. While that was happening, Heimdall dropped Soil when Jaehyun showed up. He turned to Jaehyun and released his mana storm again as he demanded from Jaehyun to know how he had Odin's eye. Heimdall realized how Jaehyun was able to grow so quickly because a mere human could never grow at such a pace. But our boy told him to come take the eye if it bothered him. Soil told Jaehyun that even he wouldn't be able to take on someone so strong on his own. But Jaehyun told them to run away because this was his problem. Yujung refused because they were a team, but Jaehyun bluntly told them to run away. Heimdall, who was now armed with his sword, asked him if he really planned to protect his friends when he was there. With one swing of his knife, Heimdall shattered the ground in front of them, but our boy activated his windstorm skill to blow away his friends so they could get out of harm's way. Yujung called out to Jaehyun to ask what he was doing, but he told her they would all end up dying if he did otherwise. However, she still refused. But Ina stopped her and told her Jaehyun was right because they didn't stand a chance against someone that strong. Yujung insisted that this was why they should help out, but Ina told her she was sure Jaehyun could do it, so she proposed they go to the entrance and inform the instructors about the situation. Yujung still didn't seem convinced, but she told Jaehyun to stay alive before leaving. When his friends finally run away, Jaehyun activates his Frozen Earth skill to freeze the entire area. The skill intrigues Heimdall, but he reminds Jaehyun that it's a skill that takes dozens of seconds to fully activate, and asks him if he really thinks he'll be able to hold him off for that long. Jaehyun replies that there's no reason he can't, especially because he had thought of this plan for when he'd have to fight Heimdall. Heimdall jumps towards him to land an attack and tells our boy to go ahead with his tricks. Jaehyun realizes Heimdall's attack could hit his friends if he fails to block it, so he activates his realization of the magical artifact and brings out his Balmung sword to block it. Along with that, he activates his lightning chains and uses them to anchor himself to the ground as he prepares for Heimdall's thunderous strike. The impact of Heimdall's attack soon clashes with our boy's blade and knocks him back, but he manages to keep his balance with the chains. After Heimdall notices that Jaehyun was able to stop his attack from going any further, it annoys him that a mere human would be able to do that. Before he can react, our boy leaps towards him and activates his mid-air leap skill with his Balmung sword in his hand. Meanwhile, the instructors on the other side of the field signal for a rescue team because many instructors and students have already been hurt. They run into a mass migration of monsters that has never happened before. The lead instructor, named Ms. Lee, tries to think of something, but the circle leaders soon approach her and offer to help. However, she tries to make them avoid fighting as much as possible since they're still students, but the students insist. Eventually Ms. Lee accepts their offer and decides to leave the support roles to the students so she can get the instructors to the front lines to fight the monsters. When she tries to activate her power, she's surprised to find out that she's unable to concentrate her mana. She's soon notified that the Aesir system is down and her connection has been temporarily cut. It's more shocking when the other instructors tell her that they're experiencing the same thing. The system has never been down, and Lee can't understand why this is happening now of all times. When she turns back to ask if there's anyone who can use their skills, the top circle leaders say they can use theirs. Ms. Lee realizes that it seems only students can use their mana, so she decides to change plans to let the students fight the monsters, while the instructors support the students as best as they can. She directs them to the 3rd district because that's where help is most needed, and the top students hurry. While they hurry, Hyun tells Juhyub to take the right side, but Juhyub protests that he doesn't boss him around, so Hyun tells Jiyeon to heal them from the back. While they're running towards the district, they turn back and see a huge skeletal monster that brings a sense of overwhelming dread over them. And they can't believe they're supposed to fight that. The Aesir system informs them that they've come across the 3rd district's boss monster, Bone Dragon, and Hyun realizes this is going to be hard. While Jaehyun's friends make a run for it, a scheduled message enters the ring assigned to the team. Jaehyun left a message to inform them that there's no need to worry about him, but he needs them to do something. He informs them that the entrance of the city is being attacked by a field boss monster, and he asks them to help the people there before he comes to join them soon. After hearing the message, Yoo-jung is fairly certain that Jaehyun will be okay, so they decide to go help out the others. Meanwhile, Jaehyun uses his mid-air leap skill to jump towards Heimdall. Heimdall realizes there's a reason Jaehyun is called the Great Adversary, but he tells our boy he'll still lose. The god lifts his sword and releases an attack wave to test Jaehyun's strength. Using his mid-air leap, our boy is able to jump out of the way in mid-air and still goes ahead to land his attack, which Heimdall blocks with his sword. Heimdall knocks him backwards, but our boy tells him he's going to regret this, then jumps right back to close the distance. He tells Heimdall that he scored pretty well on his recent exams. Then he activates his passive skill called Intermediate Greatsword Arts, and an active skill called Spinning Strike. As both of their swords clash, Heimdall tells Jaehyun his skills are not bad for a human, but he immediately tries to impale him with a frontal strike. Jaehyun blocks the hit and suddenly disintegrates his sword, much to Heimdall's surprise. The sword's disappearance causes Heimdall to fall forward momentarily, and our boy uses his realization of magical artifact to create his Nidhogg's Fang. Then he activates an active skill called Dagger Rampage. With that skill, he cuts Heimdall dozens of times in a few seconds and runs past him. The passive skill of the Nidhogg's Fang is activated, and Heimdall is poisoned several times over, and the poisons form layers over one another. Regardless, Heimdall accuses Jaehyun of resorting to petty tricks, but our boy tells him to take a good look at himself before speaking. There are several wounds on Heimdall's body, and the god realizes that a dose like this would usually be nothing. He expects the wound to have healed by now, but even when it doesn't, he decides not to regard it since all he has to do is kill this boy. Heimdall had gotten the power to temporarily interfere with the Aesir system. However, there's a limit to how much he can restrict the powers of the instructors and students using the authority granted to him by Odin. He had thought that restricting the Aesir system for the instructors would be enough to deal with these humans, but he realizes that he has to admit that Jaehyun is too powerful for him to take on when he only has a third of his power restored. Meanwhile, our boy recalls a spar he recently had with Hoyeon, where he was able to learn some swordsmanship skills that included Dagger Rampage and the Spinning Strike skills. He's certain that if he uses those skills with Nidhogg's Fang, even Heimdall won't be able to withstand it for long, Eventually, Heimdall admits to Jaehyun that he's amusing. Although he doesn't know why Asgard is so wary of just one boy, he admits that he's strong enough for him to use his horn. The god brings out the horn, and Jaehyun soon becomes worried because he has no idea what it is, but he doesn't have a good feeling. Before Heimdall can use the horn, our boy rushes towards him with his knife in hand, so he doesn't give him a chance to attack. But Heimdall tells him to consider it an honor that he gets to hear the sound of the Gjallar horn. Before Jaehyun can reach him, Heimdall blows the horn, which releases a wave of energy that knocks Jaehyun back. Just the sound of the horn paralyzes him, and the Nornir system informs him that his physical stats will be decreased by 50%. Moreover, the nearby monsters start reacting to the power of the artifact and gather around Heimdall. Jaehyun is shocked, so Heimdall tells him he doesn't know how to control monsters like Tyr, but he's good at magic. When Heimdall creates a ball of lightning in his hands, our boy tries to cancel it with his absolute calculation skill. But the system notifies him that his level is too low, and it has failed to resist the artifact's effects. The monsters soon gather around him and Heimdall strikes Jaehyun with the lightning attack, causing him to scream in pain. That attack is Heimdall's specialty, and it's called Flow Reversal Spell, and it causes immense pain even though it won't kill. As Jaehyun writhes in pain, Heimdall tells him he's going to rot in Asgard's underground cells for the rest of his life. As he fires another attack at Jaehyun, it's suddenly stopped by some force, which turns out to be a shield created by Hela. Heimdall is surprised to see Hela, and Jaehyun asks Hela what's going on. When Hela notices her body disintegrating, she realizes she can't hold on for long. Heimdall had been wondering where she was hiding, but he can see Hela's divinity hovering over her. Hela creates a wind attack, but our boy tries to stop her because he realizes that she will die if she's using Hela's divinity, just like Heimdall had said. After creating the attack, she fires it at Heimdall, who dodges it and rushes towards her. He tells her that the power is too much for her to handle, and he asks her why she intends to sacrifice herself. He wonders if she believes the great adversary will be able to save the 9 worlds. But Hela tells him it's more of a certainty than mere belief. She's convinced that Jaehyun will kill Odin and put an end to Ragnarok. But Heimdall jumps towards her to finish her off because of her irreverent words. She decides to put an end to this and summons a huge viper that tries to consume Heimdall. Regardless, our boy pleads with Hela to stop what she's doing. Meanwhile, Hyun tears up several monsters, and he also has to endure the blast from the bone dragon's mouth. When the bone dragon blasts him once more, he has to stop fighting to block the attack. Meanwhile, the other students fight other monsters, and Juhyub fights with them while Jian heals those who are hurt. Some of the students lament that they're all going to get killed by this bone dragon. Jian tells the others that they can't hold on for much longer, but Hyun insists they keep fighting since they can't get a connection to the outside world. Eventually, Juhyub runs out of mana, and he starts to curse as usual. Hyun hopes they could get a few more people who could fight, and as if on cue, Jaehyun's friends show up to lend a hand. However, Hyun protests that this is too dangerous for first years, and he adds that an A+ rank bone dragon is too difficult. While he's talking, he's ambushed by a wolf-like monster from behind, but Hoyeon activates his 100 Azure Splendor Sword and cuts the monsters into small pieces. The others soon join the action, and they collectively declare that they're here to keep the promise they made to Jaehyun to help the others. Hyun is surprised to see them facing the bone dragon and the other monsters head-on. Hoyeon rushes towards them and signals Yujung for support. She activates her overflow skill and another skill called Mana Field to create support, while Ina activates her Sword of Alzheimer. Hoyeon activates his 100 Azure Splendor Sword. They soon start tearing monsters limb from limb, and the other seniors soon join them. Hyun realizes that he had thought only Jaehyun had insane talent, but it's clear his friends are on a different level too. When Hoyeon runs into a Taurus monster that tries to smash him into the ground, he blocks the monster's axe with his shield, while Ina attacks the monster's limbs, and Hyun gets the chance to attack the monster's head. With the new support, the job of taking out these monsters seems doable. Meanwhile, some students thank Jaesong for saving them with his potions, and Soyeol tries to lead the students to the exit. Eventually, the students are left with the A+ rank boss monster. Hyun and Juhyub rush towards the monster to attack its leg and restrict its movements, and he asks the others to reach its core and kill it. Hoyeon immediately asks Yujung to use debuffs to reduce the dragon's strength, so she leaps into the air and uses a debuff on the dragon. Meanwhile, Juhyub laments that the newbies are going to be the stars of the show at this rate, but Hyun tells him there's nothing they can do about it because the Circle 9's destructive power is better than theirs. Annoyed by that, Juhyub activates his Wheel-Wind skill, then he breaks the bones on one of the monster's legs. Hyun confirms his suspicions that Juhyub doesn't consider the allies around him when attacking, so he activates his Deadly Pierce skill and cuts through some of the monster's bones. Once that is done, he signals to the other team to act, so Ina activates her Sword of Alzheimer, and Hoyeon activates his 100 Azure Splendor Sword to attack the monster's core.